Welcome to Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup. I'm your host, Jason Bland, and tonight I have a good friend, returning guest. I've been so counting the days to this show. Is Terry Lovelace, Esquire. He's the author of Incident at Devil's Den. This is, I think, his fourth time on the show. I was just on his show, Devil's Den podcast he has with Aaron Montgomery, who's been a guest on there as well. It was just, a week or two ago I was on their show and talking about my experiences in that, which are nowhere near as interesting as Terry's. In my opinion. I've been reading his book. His newest one is Devil's Den, The Reckoning. I'm blown away by, again, another Terry Lovelace book. There's been two of them, and this is the second one now, and it's blown me away. There's things I can't even talk about, I don't think, tonight that some of these people have emailed him. We talked about this with him on the show. With Incident at Devil's Den, he opened it up to everybody to email him, let them know about their experiences, and the second half of this book is all these, not all of them, but a select number of emails, I think 30 or so, of correspondence with people who've been the same experiences similar to Terry's. It's incredible. I highly recommend this book, especially if you read Incident at Devil's Den. You have to get Devil's Den, The Reckoning. All right, guys, we got a lot to get to. There's a lot of weird to get to, and we had a little flub with the World Wide Web Weird last weekend, so I want to cover one I kind of didn't get to cover last weekend, and much more. So let's go ahead and get rolling on into it. Welcome to another night of Paranormal Soup. As I said before, I'm your host, Jason Bland. Tonight's guest is Terry Lovelace. I was hoping maybe, Terry, I know you're in the chat room. If you want to join us now and join us for the World Wide Web of Weird, you come on in. We got some UFO stuff to talk about. I'd love your perspective. You're welcome to join us, Terry. Otherwise, he will definitely be joining us after the first commercial break, and we'll start the interview. And I am, like I said, I've been counting down the days of this interview. I actually saved reading. I have had a good copy of his newest book, The Reckoning, Devil's Den, The Reckoning, and he's got a little personal signed thing here to me. I love that. It's so awesome. And I had to hold myself off from reading because I like to read a book right before the guest comes, so I'm fresh on it, and I don't want to go back and reread it. There's Terry. We got to get him in on this. And I held it off, and man, I'm blown away. I finished the book today, and I'm totally blown away. Speaking of the devil himself is Terry Lovelace. Mute thy radio.
Jason, it's a pleasure to be back.
Just make sure you mute yourself in the background. You get the TV running or the computer running.
Oh, sorry. My bad. I know better.
Extinguish thy radio.
There we go.
Or that webcast. Yes, Terry Lovelace joining us. You should join us for the World Wide Web of Weird, Terry. I got some UFO stuff I'd love to get your perspective on tonight. So definitely glad to have you here. Of course, joining me every Sunday night is my lovely co-host, Jamie D. How you doing tonight, Jamie? All green?
All green. Doing well, thank you. Excited.
Got the alien theme.
Yeah.
It's just a paranormal thing. Green is. That's like my favorite color. That's why the background is a green soup. From St. Augustine, Florida, himself is Rob Autry tonight, going to be running the World Wide Web of Weird this time because it was horrible when I tried last week. So thank you for joining us, Rob. Except that you're muted. Unmute yourself.
Yeah, okay, there.
Yeah, we want to hear you, Rob.
Okay, cool.
But yes, speaking of, there is a lot to get to, so let's go ahead and roll into the World Wide Web of Weird. That's the wrong music.
Wow, chicken, bow, wow.
Tonight on the World Wide Web of Weird, like I said, I had to go back to this one. I was sad when I couldn't really talk about it last weekend because I was running the World Wide Web of Weird. It was not working. I could not play any videos, and there's no point. For my point to be made about this story, I kind of need the video evidence. And it's a Florida woman story. Not Florida man, Florida woman. Florida woman thinks she saw a baby dinosaur running through her backyard. I'm sure everybody by now has seen it, but people at my work have even mentioned it. Like, you see the baby dinosaur? I don't think so. For those listening on the Paranormal Radio Network, we are a webcast. We do show videos and pictures, but I'll try to narrate as best as possible. Like I said, this was last week. We were going to talk about this. Let me share screen here. Okay, so Florida woman thinks she saw a baby dinosaur running through her backyard. Florida woman believes she saw it. Florida woman believes she saw a baby dinosaur scampering through her backyard, and she caught the prehistoric sighting on video, reports said. Christina Ryan shared her home security footage with Fox 35 on Saturday, and this is like a week old now, after cameras captured a strange creature running through Palm Coast property last week in the middle of the night. Any animal we can't come up with that would be walking at 3:40 in the morning wouldn't walk this way, Ryan told the outlet. Maybe I've watched Jurassic Park too many times, but I see a raptor or other small dinosaur. The footage briefly captures some sort of creature that appears to have an elongated body and a reptilian-like thick tail dashing through the yard, and everyone Ryan has shown the video to has come up with the same conclusion. It must be a baby dino. Some say a large bird. That makes no sense, since whatever it appears to have front legs, so not sure, she joked. I'm sticking with raptor myself. All right, go ahead and play the footage. Roll that beam footage. It'll play several times. I think I have a zoom. I don't remember if I zoomed in on this one or not. I think I did. Yeah, I did. See that right there? I believe what we're seeing here is not a raptor. That'd be so cool. My son would love it. I mean, he's a huge Jurassic Park fan. He would if he's rooting for the mad scientist to clone dinosaurs. That's my son. He's totally a little mini me.
It looks like a fox.
I think it's a dog with a coat. I've seen people do it, Florida woman. I've seen, Florida people put dogs on coats, I'm sure. Raincoat maybe, I don't know. Or something on the coat, or he got caught on the dog. But you can see, like, the leash turning behind it, and that looks like a dog hind leg. You're just not seeing the front legs.
I have those for my cats. It's a coat with a leash on the end of it. You strap them in the coat, and that's what it looks like when they run off. Yeah,
that's what I think it is. Somebody's dog took off on its own. And I still see people sharing it on the internet, on social media, and I'm like, I don't think it's a baby dinosaur. Maybe I'm being
baby dinosaur.
It'd be cool. I mean, we were just talking a couple weeks ago about Elon Musk's company trying to Neuralink, talking about, it'd be cool to clone dinosaurs. Maybe we'll do that.
Yeah.
Like, you're already up to enough nefarious things, right? Putting chips in monkeys and making them play video games. Now you're going to clone dinosaurs. Okay. All right. Well, another one that we had last week was the infamous Jeremy Corbell UFO footage that he got that the U.S. Navy confirmed is real. But now, and we'll play it here for people to refresh their memory, UFO expert debunks Navy footage of mysterious pyramid-shaped object. Terry, I'm sure you've seen this by now.
I have. It's fascinating.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's see what you say to this person. And this article is from the New York Post by Stephen Greenstreet and Jackie Salo. A renowned UFO investigator claims to have debunked the U.S. Navy footage of pyramid-shaped objects flying off the coast of California, saying it in every way matches a plane. Mick West, the author of Escaping the Rabbit Hole, said there are plausible explanations for the three flashing UFOs seen hovering over the USS Russell in July 2019. What we've got to go with here is the simplest explanation, and really the simplest explanation is just a plane. It moves like a plane. It acts like a plane, West told the Post. He said the flashing lights seen coming from the object are... hold on, my article's messing. Darn it, my article messed up. We got to go with here was the simplest explanation. Really, the simplest explanation is just a plane, as we said. Okay, we said the flashing lights seen coming from the object are similar to FAA compliant lights on a normal airplane. If you look at the video, you'll see it kind of flashing. It's not flashing at a rectangular rate, or at a rectangular rate. Wow, I am really misreading this. Regular rate. It's kind of like irregular, but it really reminds me of flashlights of a plane, and I looked into that, and I found there are actually some planes that have a sequence of lights that are a long sequence overlaid a short sequence. The supposed UFOs were also moving at the same speed as the planes in the area, West said. If you assume it's a plane at 33,000 feet, you can calculate its angular velocity from that information that's available with the position of the stars, West said. So you can see it's a bit less than 1 degree per second, which translates to about 400 to 450 knots, which is the exact same speed planes in that region were flying. All right, go ahead and play that footage. Roll this beautiful beam footage. Now, what he says is that the camera, when it gets out of focus with something, the reason it's triangular shaped is because it's a triangular shaped iris. The problem with that is the other triangular things that are not bright flying behind it in the background.
Where are the stars? Where are these alleged stars that he's using as a point of reference to gauge
the blinking stars that you can kind of see, I guess, behind it?
Yeah. I don't think that's an airplane. FAA regs say that those lights have to be, one has to be red, one has to be green. I forget which side they are on. But.
Well, his whole explanation of it being the lens. Maybe if it was just always that bright, you see where it got really bright and flashed, that might explain it. But that kind of malfunction with the lens where you get that lens shape is usually with brighter light, you know. It's not going to be like that.
I was into photography in the 70s in a big way. And I had before single lens reflex, I had I can't remember what you call it. I had the kind of camera that used a mirror lens like that mechanically. But digital cameras don't use a prism like that.
This is military. And this is military. And if this was flying above them and they're filming it, they obviously know it's not a plane. They could rule that out very quickly on a U.S. Navy ship if that's a plane. Right? They would have no interest in it then, would they? I wouldn't think so. The thing is, this guy, this UFO expert, whatever, they make it sound like he's a ufologist is debunking this. He's a UFO skeptic. He writes everything about being skeptical of UFOs completely. You know?
What are his credentials? Is he a physicist or a...
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? UFO skeptic. You know, it proposes, I'm a ufologist. I believe they're all fake or misunderstood. You know, I'm a ufologist. Okay, you're a total skeptic probably, but okay. I don't know. I've been skeptical of some of the footage that's come out during this whole disclosure movement. There's some things that I'm like, you know, were suspect to me, but I don't know. I think this is something real. I don't think we'd get this, but maybe we would. Maybe they would give us crap like, oh, this looks like it could be really UFO, but really some mist angled or it's something else, and then it'll debunk the whole field. We got to watch out for that. They could put that kind of evidence out there, you know, but I don't think so. All right, we got to move on. All right, next up, I got this from Unexplained Mysteries because I got good short articles. Could this be the Rendlesham Forest UFO? The following was sent to us via email. The sender wishes to remain anonymous. This was sent to Unexplained Mysteries. Back in 1980, my mom lived in Suffolk in the east of England. Late in the evening of December 24th, 1980, Christmas Eve, you know, this is, you know, Rendlesham. She had just finished making her final preparations for Christmas Day and went to the back garden to put some rubbish into the bin. Whilst in the back garden, my mom saw 4 extremely bright glowing objects in the night sky. After observing the objects, she went back inside, got her camera, and took a couple photographs. She then stood and watched the objects for roughly another minute before they simply blinked out and vanished from the site. My mom never told anyone about what she saw. She always kept it to herself. It was 3 years later when she read the newspaper article about UFO witnesses by USAF military personnel in Rendlesham Forest written in the News of the World that she realized that what she saw and photographed 3 years earlier was probably and more than likely something to do with and connected with Colonel Charles Halt and what his men witnessed. My mom always thought it had simply too much of a coincidence not to be related. I agree. And let's face it, within hours of my mom sighting, Halt and his men were running around the forest chasing UFOs. And we've had Nick Redfern on and talked about, you know, his theories that it was all a psyop by the military. I don't know, but I think it's cool. We got another little piece of information, you know, a little piece of evidence from Rendlesham, because there's no photos. There was nobody. It was in the military. It was locked up. Nobody was taking pictures for some reason. They should have been, you know, but this woman did. Thank you. Have you seen this, Terry?
I have never seen this before. And, you know, I bet there's a lot of footage of Rendlesham we'll never see. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, you know, Nick Redfern makes a very good argument for being a military psyop, but I'm not totally convinced. All right, more onto that. Maybe a military psyop, maybe hungry reptilians. Cattle in rural Oregon are getting found dead, mutilated in strange circumstances. My son was asking me about this today. Like, why do they kill cows, or why? What? I'm like, maybe they like beef. I don't know. I mean, we do. Maybe they do. I don't know. Over the past 3 months, 7 animals have been found mutilated on a ranch near central Oregon's Crook County, the Northwest News Network reported Tuesday. In the most case, the dead animal's sex organs, tongue, or eyes are cut away cleanly and there's no blood. The case is called to mind similar discoveries of 5 mutilated bulls in 2019 in Harney County, where the 5 bulls were found dead in a 2-mile radius with sex organs and tongues removed. There have also been cases in recent years in Wasco, Amatilla, Wheeler, and Lake counties in recent years. There have also been cases reported in Arizona. Similar cases of mutilated livestock and even elk and deer have surfaced periodically across the country. In the 1970s, a rash of livestock mutilations across the U.S. West and Midwest struck fear in the rural areas. And we've, of course, covered these. And no graphic photos tonight. I didn't need to do that. You know what it looks like pretty much. And Terry, I find it really interesting. I want to get into tonight, too, is little information Betty, we want to call her, told you a little bit about reptilians, I think, and their dietary habits. Maybe it might be related to this. I don't know.
That would fit.
Yeah. All right.
I read all of Linda Moulton Howe's books on this topic, and they are fascinating.
Yeah, most skeptics, everybody just lightly thinks, oh, it's just misunderstood. It's animals killing them. Man, if you really go down this rabbit hole, you'll find out it's not that. It just can't be. It can't be.
It can't.
There's just too much hard evidence. And Linda Moulton Howe, yes, she's to me proven it. All right, we'll move on. Run out of time here. All right, so Naples, we got Naples here. Searches for a woman accused of witchcraft fraud. Naples Police Department is searching for a woman involved in a fraud investigation who's said to be offering spiritual witchcraft services. Police say at this time 10 victims have come forward and have lost a combined total of about $100,000. Woo! Wow. Investigators said one victim brought the woman more than $29,000 in cash. Dang. Officers found ads in free Hispanic newspapers, heard them on local Hispanic radio stations, and saw flyers posted in laundromats and stores in East Naples and Golden Gate areas. The newspapers and radio ads were published to December of 2020. The flyers were posted between January and March of this year. Well, I'm shocked, Sandra Ray said. I never thought that, someone would be operating something like that. Investigators said she first offered tarot card readings, other spiritual services. Then she asked victims to bring her as much cash as possible. She claimed she saw darkness in the money and would take it to her temple in Fort Myers to clean it. But she never returned to those seeking her help. Wow, shock. I see something like that. Nobody likes that. Marcel Courier said, take advantage of innocent people that may have no money. They take advantage. It's not right. One victim brought the woman more than $29,000 in cash. Rich Koklo, Wink News safety and security specialist, says she won't be able to hide for long. She didn't just do this one time and then disappear. She has set up shop somewhere else, and that's the tip going to come into law enforcement. This person is doing the same scam, maybe just a few miles away. I don't care how good the medium or psychic is, you think, like whatever, I don't care. They're literally relaying stuff nobody could know. There's no reason you should give them $29,000 in cash.
No.
No reason.
They got to take part of the responsibility for that stupidity.
Wow. I mean, there's a sucker born every day. And I hate to pick on the victims. I'm not trying to pick on the victims. I can see people can really get you emotionally on these things. But come on, people. You got to wise up, And I hate this person because we were talking last week with Mike Anthony about how, Penn Jillette hates mediums. This is why he hates mediums, people, because of fraudsters. But what sucks is what Penn Jillette doesn't know, there's really good mediums out there. They're really honest. Are not in it for the money,
Won't charge $29,000.
They won't charge you $29,000, no.
Unfortunately, there's people that ruin it for everybody.
Yeah. Well, if you see this person, it looks like this drawing, a pretty good drawing. Don't give them $29,000. Don't give them any money.
I think there are a lot of people out there that call themselves a witch that are going to take offense to that headline.
That too, yeah. Yeah, no kidding. Misrepresenting witches and psychics, lady. All right, let's move on.
I take offense to that.
All right, we got some ghost footage, being roll footage of ghost here. Maybe. I think it's trash. Okay, mysterious figure appears on a highway at night. Motorists recently captured dash cam footage of a childlike. This was going all over the place, so I have to address it. Childlike figure appeared in the middle of the road. Eerie clip was captured by Mitch Kuhn, who had been driving along. I'm sorry if I pronounce his last name wrong. That's what it looks like. Hume Highway near Bardia, New South Wales, just before 8 p.m. on Sunday. All of a sudden, out of the gloom, he caught sight of a small figure leftmost lane. Believing the figure to be a small child, Kuhn's mother, who was in the passenger seat, immediately phoned up the emergency service to report the sighting. Kuhn later got in touch with the Macquarie Fields police station to offer the footage as evidence. However, he was told that the child had already been found and was on his way home. So they did find a child. This does not look like a child to me. It looks like trash. Strangely, the police later maintained that no child had been found. That's the thing. Then they go, what are you talking about? No, there's no child found. Despite officers searching the area for hours, leading to a great deal of confusion over the incident. Looking at the footage, it's not even clear if the figure in the roadway was actually a child at all. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying, oh, ghost child on the road. Go ahead and play that footage.
Maybe it's a trash child.
I think it's a trash bag.
What in the...
But don't you love that a police person on the phone told them, oh, yeah, they found the child. They went home, and there was no child and no nothing. They just wanted the person to hang up. Isn't that nice? I think it's a trash bag in the wind blown up or something. It's debris. It does not look like a child. I slow it down here towards the end of the video, like the last couple clips in a row. You'll see if you keep going, Rob, it'll be
looks
a
like
slowed
a
down
gnome
zoom
right
version.
there.
Does look like a gnome.
I mean, I can see why the person freaked out, though. I mean, it is weird. If I saw that driving, I'd be like, "What was that?" You only have your mind has a split second to decide what that was. I would freak out too. I'm surprised they didn't swerve at all.
I think it's a gnome.
It does kind of look like a gnome. It does. It does. It does look like a gnome. I'll agree,
like
but I think it's
little
trash. All right, here's the zoom in, slow down.
Totally looks like a gnome.
Yeah, you can see like a head and little hands and.
That's a gnome.
So left a garden gnome in the road. I don't know.
Garden gnome in a road.
There's a shortage on garden gnomes.
Yeah, we did a story Wednesday about that.
They're in the road. That's where they're at. They're all committing suicide because this world sucks so much. They're out in the road just trying to get run over by cars. They don't want to be yard decorations anymore. Okay, last one. Actually, I was at work today, and one of my coworkers goes, "Hey, did you see this about SpaceX and a UFO?" I'm like, "What?" This is from today from the U.S. Sun. SpaceX Starship had near miss with a UFO, and astronauts were told to prepare for crash. NASA reveals. SpaceX Starship is reported to have had near miss with a UFO, with astronauts on board told to buckle up and prepare for a crash. While en route to the International Space Station after a successful launch in Florida, the 4 crew members were notified they could soon collide with an unknown object. That's just what you want to hear. There's no time to perform an avoidance maneuver, and instead, the astronauts on board SpaceX recycled Crew Dragon capsule, the Endeavour, were told to put on their pressurized suits in case of a collision, reports. The NASA SpaceX team was informed by the possible conjunction by U.S. Space Command. NASA spokesman Kelly Humphreys said the object being tracked is classified as unknown. The possibility of the conjunction came close to the closest approach time that there wasn't time to compute or execute a debris avoidance maneuver with confidence. So they didn't see this thing until this thing launched. And they're like, oh, wait a second. So the SpaceX team elected to have the crew don their pressure suits out of an abundance of caution. Thank God those suits have little pee things in them, because I'd be peeing myself. I mean, brave astronaut, you can be so brave, but you hear that warning? Ooh. Pentagon notified NASA about the potential crash. To see the Pentagon did, huh? About 7 hours after the spacecraft launch, U.S. Space Command spokesman Aaron Dick told Futurism. After further analysis, the 18th Space Control Squadron quickly determined there was no conjunction threat, all aboard are safe, and the spacecraft was not at risk. But obviously it was close enough, right? According to NASA spokesman Humphreys, the closest the UFO got to the spacecraft was 45 kilometers away, but there was no real danger to the crew or the spacecraft. That's what we hear now, right? A team of 4 astronauts were propelled into orbit at SpaceX's third crew mission on 5:49 Eastern on Cape Canaveral, Florida on Friday, docking at the International Space Station yesterday. So they made it, but, Elon Musk likes to always joke on UFOs and that there's no aliens coming to Earth, all that stuff. But, One might have just taken out your SpaceX.
Yeah.
The other thing is, they got to get serious about the SpaceX now. My other story I didn't cover tonight is Russia's going to pull out of the International Space Station. They're going to build their own. Yay, right? Wow, international relations just gotten so great.
Yeah, man. Working great, man.
But that's it for the World Wide Web of Weird. Tonight's guest, Terry Lovelace, has joined us for the weird. And we're going to talk about his new book, Devil's Den, The Reckoning. Terry, I truly love this book. Like I said, I saved it because I wanted to be fresh with it and just finished it today.
Thank you so kindly.
Totally blown away. Totally blown away. So people, you got to check out this book. We're going to go to commercial break. And when we come back, we'll have our guest, Terry Lovelace. We're going to talk about new stuff that we haven't talked about before. And I really do want to get time tonight to at least cover a couple of these email stories. I have a couple in mind, maybe. It's hard to choose. There's some really good ones in here. But I'd love to discuss those with you. And I got all the old photos we can bring up. I'd love to talk about the Devil's Den location a little bit tonight, too. Just a lot. Time goes by so fast when we do the show. So we'll be right back after a short commercial break.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do Voices from Beyond, the Cold Case Files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Of the second kind, physical evidence of a UFO. Close encounters of the third kind, contact. From Steven Spielberg, the director of Jaws, comes one of the most ambitious and unusual films ever made. And what you will see has never been seen before. It's a cosmic mystery crossing what many scientists believe will be the next threshold of human experience. It's called Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It begins in an Indiana town and leads to one inescapable conclusion. We are not alone. Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Certificate A. Now showing at the Odeon, Leicester Square.
The night is alive. Join us and take a walk on the weird side when you tune in to the Kingdom of Nye, hosted by Heather Wade the finest in late night talk. Listen live free weeknights starting at 9 p.m. Pacific Time at thekingdomofnye.com, talkstreamlive.com, and the Paranormal Radio app. Wanna take a ride?
The international chart-topping, haunted horror of Haverfordwest has been described as terrifyingly real, a must-read, shocking and chilling brilliance, genuinely worrying, utterly frightening. Don't read before bed. Described as one of the spookiest writers out there, best-selling author G.L. Davies presents Haunted Horror of Haverfordwest, the true paranormal account that is shocking the world. Dare you enter? Dare you read? Haunted Horror of Haverfordwest is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, and wherever books are sold. Pray you never have to live there.
Do you like rock and roll? Do you enjoy a good story? Wish You Were Here, A Rock Fantasy, is a book inspired by Badfinger. It will not only entertain you, but intrigue you. What is it about? Well, Thomas is searching for his bandmate and friend in heaven, and in spirit has helped pen this story. He meets an old friend and famous new ones on his afterlife voyage. Midwest Book Review said, Wish You Were Here, A Rock Fantasy, is a book inspired by Badfinger. It's a quirky story by Joyce S. Isaacson and is unique, original, and deftly crafted metaphysical novel that showcases the author's genuine flair for character and narrative-driven entertainment that is simply riveting from first page to last. Wish You Were Here, A Rock Fantasy is now available on pennantpublication.com, amazon.com in paperback and hardcover, and also on Kindle Unlimited. So check it out now. Wish You Were Here, A Rock Fantasy.
Switch to DCS ranging.
240, nominal to profile.
We're in the pipe. 5 by 5.
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, our guest is Terry Lovelace. He's the author of Incident at Devil's Den, and his newest book is Devil's Den, The Reckoning. A lifelong experiencer since early childhood, Terry Lovelace is the author of Amazon's bestseller, Incident at Devil's Den, a true story. Since publishing, he's been a guest on over 100 podcasts and radio programs and is a frequent speaker at UFO conferences nationwide. In November 2019, his story was featured in the Travel Channel's My Horror Story. Terry completed 6 years of active duty, 1973 to 1979 in the United States Air Force, serving as a medic and first responder at Whitman Air Force Base. After this, his enlistment, he completed a bachelor's degree in psychology at Park University in Kansas City and earned a law degree from Western Michigan. His legal career included private practice in Michigan and a civil service as the Assistant Attorney General and DA for the U.S. Territory of America and Samoa. He was later appointed as an Assistant Attorney General for the state of Vermont, where he served until his retirement in 2012. I think this is his fourth time on the show, or the third or fourth time. We've had him on. Everybody knows I'm a huge fan of Incident at Devil's Den. It opened my eyes to my own experiences I completely ignored, which it fathoms to me to this day. I can't how I ignored my own experiences when I've been into the paranormal, and I'm a believer. But I even looked away from something that happened to me on a camping trip. So it opened my eyes. And Terry, after writing his book, he put his email in there for people to email him their own experiences, and he got those emails. He got a lot of emails and a lot of great stories in there, and he's included, I think, about 30 of them. I don't know. We'll talk about that tonight in this book. and they're incredible experiences. Blew me away. And there's new stuff in this book that he didn't talk about in the first one about his experiences. Some stuff I knew, I talked to him about before, and some stuff I was even not aware of. So I've been, like I said, counting down the days to have him on. So let's go ahead and get to our guest. All right, Terry. Yeah, we had somebody say your mic was loud, so go ahead and give it a test there.
Yeah, how about now? Is that any better?
Sounds good to me. They said it was louder than us. I don't know. How does it sound to you guys, Jamie, Rob?
I think it sounds good.
Okay.
I saw Ricardo's message.
Yeah. Man, I always love, tell me if there's something wrong. I want to know now. But anyways, it is a pleasure, Terry, to finally have you back on the show. I had fun being on Devil's Den podcast, correct? As the new
Devil's Den
podcast you're
podcast,
doing.
yeah. I had a blast. It was great having you. It was a lot of fun.
You know, we got to talk about my developing experience, remembering my experiences and trying to figure it out. And you've been such a help to me in that area. And I can see how you've been helped to so many reading this book, your correspondence with people. It's truly incredible because this is what we got to do. We're all, like we talked about in your show, we're all little pieces to the puzzle. It's a big, big puzzle. I don't know if we'll ever put it together, but all of our experiences are data factors into discovering what the heck this mystery is.
You know, so nice to have somebody that can validate my experience and then I can validate back. And, I just think that's just great.
You know, we talked about my flash of blue light that I had on my camping trip. I was on the Red River Gorge and I saw this flash of light. It was like blue, and my friend said it was heat lightning. I saw somebody in one of the stories you got emailed in the book I wanted to mention. They mentioned a blue light flash too. Around them.
Yeah. I call her story the blue light special for that reason.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh, there's something there. That connects to a little bit. It's like they're all pieces. Everybody's general experience. That's how people connected to you from the first book. Is there's all little things that like, oh yeah, that's really similar to something that happened to me, and you see that in these emails. They all start out with that. The way it woke them up.
Well, I got 14 at the time that I wrote the book. I had 1,400 people email me with stories. It's now over 1,700.
Oh yeah.
So it's. I'm really pleased with the response. So what I did was I tried to pick, first I picked 400 of the very best stories and then distilled it down to the best 50. And then I tried to engage these folks and talk to them and, can I get the story out fully? I think there's some great stories in there. I'd love to talk about them tonight.
Yeah, we're not going to get to them yet, people. I want to hold it. But I do want to get to them because there's a couple. It's hard for me to pick. I don't want to give them all away. Obviously, go buy the book, people. But there's a couple of them I have to talk about tonight. Like I said, I was blown away by these people's experiences. I totally believe them. And people are like, oh, you're gullible for believing them. But you know what? Why would people waste their time to write? They want to be anonymous. Why would people waste their time with that? My honest opinion.
Why would a 76-year-old woman write me with a fairy tale? It just doesn't make sense.
Exactly. Why waste their time? She's got much longer to live, Yeah. Seriously, why waste her time with something like that? That's why I feel these are so credible and so honest, and that's what I love about this book. This, as an addition to the first book, there's and your own experiences. I want to get into tonight. Things you kind of like left out. We can get into a little bit of that tonight too, especially when it concerns Betty. Now, people might be new to the show and maybe never seen Terry Lovelace. Welcome if this is your first time, because it can, if you have any possibility that you might have some alien abduction experiences, listening to Terry might open that up in you. It did for me. So just fair warning. But I would like to briefly cover the main factors of Incident at Devil's Den, just to give people a little bit of a refresher.
Sure. We can give that capsule version here. In 1977, I was active duty serving at Whiteman Air Force Base drove an ambulance. I was an EMT, an enlisted guy from 1973 to 1979. In 1977, a guy I worked in a night shift exclusively. Guy I worked with for 3 years, good friend. I was 22 at the time. He was 23. We were both recently married. Our wives were friends, just a good guy. And he came up to me one night and says, I got an idea, let's go camping. And neither one of us had ever been camping before. We were city kids. So we went, and he wanted to go to this park down in northwest Arkansas called Devil's Den, and I'd never heard of it. And that's where we went, and we dodged the ranger station. We didn't stay in a campsite. We wanted to be real outdoorsmen, right? We'd never been, but we're like Lewis and Clark now. So we skirted around a chain across the road with a sternly worded "Do not enter, keep out" sign. And we thought, it's probably a nature preserve or something. So we didn't think that big a deal about it, but because we weren't going to leave a mess, we weren't going to tear anything up, or So we found this plateau, and it's still there. You can see it on Google Earth.
Hey, Rob, go ahead, pull up the screen share there, Rob, and see if you can find that. In that folder, you'll find I have a number of different Google Earth images of Devil's Den there.
There they
I did
are.
some of my own Google. Man, you look at this at on Google Earth, and I look at all the back roads. Like there's not that many. Like you guys really had to just get lucky to find this spot.
We had, my friend Toby was the navigator, and he made probably a dozen calls, go left here, go right here, go left here. And I mean, everything looked the same. It's just the middle of the forest. And
right.
Those roads are dirt. And because we left pavement, we were off the map. And somehow he found his way there. And that's where we ended up. And we entered there and camped, not where the pin is. We camped up further, right where the road enters, at the very top there. Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
And we camped by that tree line there. And this is kind of deceptive. It looks like the trees are this is actually a plateau. If you look at it from a side angle, it's elevated.
You can go on Google Earth on this spot, and I can give out the coordinates, but you can go to Google Earth, and there's a 3D view you can do, and it'll show you how it's like a plateau. Everything dips down quite a bit from the plateau.
Yeah. The top of the plateau was level with the treetops of the forest.
Wow.
So we camped. We set up our camp and did all the fun things you do when you camp, and we're kicked back on our air mattresses. We got a little campfire going, and this is about 9:00 at night. And we're not, we shouldn't have been tired. We were used to working the night shift. This was like mid-afternoon for us.
Yeah.
But, there were some weird things happen. It started with the forest went quiet, and I know that sounds cliche, and people are going to say, "Oh yeah, I hear that in the movies all the time." But
yeah,
I'm telling you, it's true.
And the animals and insects know something. Trust me.
Oh man, it was like being in a sound booth. If we hadn't had a campfire crackle, that was the only. I mean, we would have heard nothing. And a few minutes later, my friend notices something to his left on the western horizon, and he asked me. He says, "Hey Terry, were those lights there before?" And back in 1977, there was nothing around here. I mean, it was really remote. If you look now on Google Earth, within a couple miles, there are some buildings.
Yeah, I noticed.
But there in 77, there was nothing there.
Yeah.
And
well, see, this is Google Earth today. That what they post. Who knows when they shot this from Google Earth? But you can see there's tracks. Somebody's driving up there now.
Yeah, I had a landscaper out of Alabama who follows me on Facebook blow up the image and says he can see where somebody uses a farm tractor and what's called a brush hog and clear cuts that so the trees don't grow on it. Yeah, that should be covered with 40-year-old mature trees by now. But it's not. But the federal government spends money on gas to go up there and cut the grass for what?
Right. For what? For what reason? I have, that's, and I have to say, you go to the other image, it's kind of got a triangle shape to it.
It does have a rough triangular shape to it. It does. When we walked it felt kind of horseshoe shaped. That's actually the way I described it in the book because I hadn't seen the satellite images yet. So. Yeah, my friend has his head turned to the left, and he sees these three little stars in a tight triangle, and they're sitting above the horizon, and they weren't there before. They were bright. And my friend was an amateur astronomer. That was the whole purpose of this exercise, was he wanted to night watch without light pollution.
Right.
And he wanted to be an astronomer. He probably would have made it. Probably could have made it.
Yeah.
And while we're watching these flights, we're discussing what are they, and they moved. They rotated like they were on an axis, and they went up into the sky and reached a ceiling of, I'm guessing, 10, 12,000 feet, and it came to a stop, and then did a motion where it moved. It was on a straight upward trajectory, and then it flattened out where it was parallel with the Earth. And then the apex of the triangle was aimed right at us. And this thing started it looked like a glide plane. It looked like it was just gliding down toward our position. And it came in at about 5,000 feet on the horizon and then dropped a little further. It ended up, and it came to a dead stop right over this meadow. Now, we were fortunately camped off to the side a little bit, so this thing wasn't hanging right over our heads.
Right.
Thankfully. And I describe it as being a city block long on each length of the triangle. I mean, it was as big as a Walmart. I mean,
Wow.
and I can't understand how this thing was not seen in 5 counties. I don't get it.
Like, flying there, other people should be able to see it. It's that big.
God, yes. And the crazy thing is that we acted totally inappropriate to the situation. We about the time it started moving up into the sky, I felt this sensation of calm wash over me, and we weren't all that I felt unnerved by the silence. That all left. I was just calm, and my buddy was in the same situation. We were just. It was I was in a weird place. It was.
Yeah.
I was disassociated or something. It was like I was a participant instead of or just an observer and not a participant, not active in it. I don't know how to explain it, but it was, our emotions were muted. We should have been, let's get out of here. But no, we were just calm. And shortly after it stopped, it flashed some lights down, and then that calm sensation that we had, that calm emotion, transitioned abruptly to sleepy. All of a sudden, all I wanted to do was go into the tent and go to sleep. And that was all I could think of. It was a compulsion. I mean, and that's what I did. I didn't bother to take my boots off, my shirt off, anything. I went in a tent. My buddy went in the tent. We fell on these air mattresses and we were both out. I mean, I don't think we were asleep. I think we were unconscious. And that's when they took us. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, the fact that you guys just saw this and were like, okay, let's go to bed. That shouldn't happen. But, I mean, with the lack of noise, the one big UFO I actually saw was 16 years old. It came right over downtown Michigan City in the middle of the night I was with 4 other friends. And, I was thinking about it today. When I saw it, it was like the pressure changed, like the sound changed in the city. And time stopped. We all just stood there with our jaws hung open as this thing just went right over our heads. And it was like there was a pressure in my head, or like everything was abnormal, or maybe it was just shock of seeing it. I don't know. But I think about that experience when you talk about how the sound changed and the way none of us screamed or yelled at this thing in the air that was no way created by humans. It was way too big. We'd all just looked up and jaws dropped. And then it was like they tried to forget it as soon as it happened.
Yeah, yeah. And it's odd you talk about that weird auditory change. I talk in my book about seeing a UFO, a flying saucer, a disc, when I was 8 years of age. And I was in my backyard. I saw this, round shadow move across my feet. I looked up and I saw this silver disc. And I thought, like you said, with my mouth open, I was just like in awe. And I thought it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. But there was an abrupt auditory change to it. It was like I had my hands pressed against my ears.
Yeah, it's like you're being muffled.
Yeah, because there were people out, hanging up laundry, cutting grass, kids, dogs, cats, cars. I mean, this was in the city, and all the sounds were muted until it shot away, and then everything came back.
So I wonder if that has something to do with the propulsion system of these craft. Some kind of side effect, or is it intentional effect? on people. I don't know. I'm curious about that after your experiences and these stories in here are similar experiences. Like there's one where a guy talks about a UFO coming out of the water and not causing any ripples or in the waves or just like came out. Well, that to me is evidence of, being able to be transphasic, like it's not really coming out of, it's like phasing through the water. There's the propulsion to these things is what it is. I get really fascinated by it, and I always wonder if that's a side effect, that experience. Because I've had other people tell me similar experiences when they witness something huge like that in the sky.
Yeah, when I got these stories, there's so many similarities between these stories. There's got to be a reason for that, and this thread of commonality has to mean something.
So now we should get the short and easy of the, which is hard to do, the after effects of that. When you guys woke up.
Woke up in a tent with these flashing yellow, white lights just flooding the tent. I mean, as bright as like an old school flash camera bulb would be. And that woke me up, and I sat up, and my boots had been unlaced all the way down. And I knew I didn't do that.
Yeah.
But I wasn't afraid. It annoyed me. And I took them off, and my socks were on sideways. And that confused me. And I took them off. I put them on properly, laced up my boots. And my friend is looking out at something in the meadow. And I'm like, what are you looking at? What's out there? And I don't get a straight answer from him. So I get on my knees, and I pull back the flap on the right side of the tent. And I saw that this thing that had been 3,000 feet over our heads had descended and was now just about 30 feet over the base of the meadow. So that's why these lights were so bright. These lights were on the tips of the points of the triangle. And now they weren't 3,000 feet away. They were 30 feet away. So, and they were flashing in odd colors. Well, I just say white, yellow, orangish, then maybe a tint of green. I thought they were the overhead flashers of like a park ranger's truck there to kick us out,
Right.
And, the second thing I saw was there were a dozen, maybe 15 of what I thought were little kids walking around underneath this thing. And I could see them kind of in silhouette in the dark, but when the lights would flash on the points of the triangle, it would light up the meadow, and I could see them more clearly for just a second. And I'm confused, and I'm like, Toad, man, what are these kids doing out here in the middle of the night, in the middle of nowhere? And he's like, Terry, man, those ain't no little kids. Look at them. They're not human beings. And that scared me. That's when my fear started, because I looked out the window, and these things were not human beings. They were just stereotypical gray guys. Big heads, gray in color. I couldn't tell if that was the skin tone or they were wearing garments or what. Very, very thin torso. Long arms, long legs, and they walked with a real distinctive gait. They walked like their knees were hinged to go backward an inch or two with every step. And I had to describe it. But it gave the impression that it was dragging their back leg behind them on every step. And while we're watching this light came on from underneath the craft. That was a cylinder of white light, kind of like the quality of a high-power searchlight cutting through fog. You can see a column of white light. It had that characteristic to it. And these little guys would walk into it in 2s and 3s and just pixelate out, and they were gone.
Wow. It's like they're being teleported.
Yeah, very much like the old Star Trek thing.
Yeah.
Transport, whatever.
Beam me up.
Yeah, very much like that. And we watched when the last two were evaporated, dissolved, that light shut off, and we saw this thing take off. And it didn't take off like a rocket ship. It took off like a hot air balloon. It just lifted up and made a turn.
And no noise.
And no noise whatsoever.
Now, like I said, we're trying to give a brief story. There's so much to this, but the effects you guys felt after that, were awful. You guys almost died.
Yeah, we were both acutely ill. We were both acutely dehydrated, seriously dehydrated. We were both burned. I had the worst sunburn I'd ever had in my life. I never blistered. I never peeled. and I had what was called flash burns to my eyes. It's what an arc welder gets if they don't wear that hood. It's a sunburn to the cornea of your eyes.
Yeah.
It's really painful. It feels like you got sand in your eyes.
Mm.
So yeah, we were hurt. I was pretty angry about that for a while, but now I think it was kind of collateral damage. I don't think they really intended to hurt us. Because they surely could have hurt us or taken us someplace else or done whatever with us. But
I find it odd, like that, how ill you guys were. I mean, I think there's other people. I mean, there's some stories in the book where people felt like they were sick afterwards. They had the flu and that, but you were severely ill. like they could have killed you. If you hadn't gotten medical treatment, you probably could have died.
we were listed as acutely ill. Yeah, dehydration's bad. It's
Yeah, I mean, it sounded like you were irradiated.
I think we were. Yeah,
And
something.
that might have been a mistake. Hey, Rob, real quick, I did mute you because I was noticing echo and muffling from Terry's line until I muted you. So it's kind of feedback we're getting on your end. I'll unmute you so you can talk when you want to, but you might want to stay muted.
Okay.
All right,
I was
sorry.
going to say it's kind of peculiar. It's a triangle-shaped craft, and this plateau is kind of roughly triangle-shaped as well.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder what the history, what the real history of this plateau is.
Yeah. I mean, if something wanted to come and land there and settle in, it's surrounded by everything, kind of a perfect spot.
I mean, what if it's a contact point for somebody else? The government has contact points where, neutral ground where they can meet with aliens. I mean, I think you've talked about this before. You researched like what Native Americans and Indians in the area believed about Devil's Den or that area.
Yeah, I spoke with a medicine woman from Russellville, Arkansas. There are two Native American tribes that lay claim to the park, the Caddo and the Kahino tribes. And forgive me if I mispronounced them. The woman that was kind enough to speak to me was from the Caddo tribe, and she told me that Devil's Den is cursed land, and that's oral tradition for as long as they can remember. And I said, what, like 100 years, 50 years? And she says, no, we don't talk about time in that manner. We think about it in terms of generations, and it's as far back as you go. And she says, we'll transit across there. We'll walk across there if we got to get from point A to point B. But we don't camp, we don't hunt, we don't fish. And I followed up with an archaeologist who told me, he says, we find Neolithic stone tools and like flint arrowheads and artifacts all around Devil's Den, but nowhere in a park. And
like they stayed out.
Yeah, they stayed out.
And that's what I mean. Like, it seems like this thing was flowing through and it goes, oh, look, there's people. Like if you're there, they're going to make contact. Not to recommend anybody go find this place and do that. You're going to have a bad time. Read Terry Lovelace's book. Don't do it. But I am tempted. I'd be one of those people tempted to do it if I didn't have children. I'd be tempted to do it.
Next year will be the 45th anniversary, and I'm thinking about doing a return to Devil's Den.
Oh, Terry, I've thought about that for you. I've wondered if you would do that, and daytime, of course.
Oh, absolutely daytime.
Yeah, I know you wouldn't do it at night anywhere besides there. But yeah, I want to go there. I want to see it and check it out and get the feel of the land. I'm so curious about this place. You mentioned, I always butcher his name, and I have him on Facebook Friends, and I would love to have him as guest. Is David Pilates? You say his last name?
Pilates, yeah.
Pilates, the missing 411.
He doesn't return my emails either.
He just lost. Well, recently he lost his son, which is really sad.
Heard that's really tragic.
Yeah. But I love his research. I love listening to him talk about all this, and his books are amazing. But there's a correlation he made between parks or places with the word devil in it and missing people.
Yeah, the fourth volume in his Missing 411 series is called The Devil is in the Details.
Yeah.
And Devil's Den is in there.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a warning. Devil, don't go there. The devil. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what these places were to Native Americans. If they stayed away from it, they knew, something's going to reach out and touch you if you went there. And that's so curious, like why, and why the mystery of why they're still like mowing this area. Like they know something. Like that recent Google image, you can see the tracks. You can see they're keeping it barren.
Yeah. and it's owned by the Bureau of Land Management and leased to a private individual. So that's kind of a curious ownership arrangement.
Yeah. Wonder. Ooh, would love to know.
Yeah, I'd like to know more. Yeah.
So, the whole book, there's like when we had you on, I really focused on the first time you were on about the OSI interrogation. They hypnotically regressed you. They told you guys to stay away from each other.
Ordered us.
It was the whole experience afterwards, even probably more worse than the experience you had on the ship. I don't know. Our government's awful.
Man, I'll tell you, it was awful. It was awful. We were. I couldn't understand what was going on. I felt like we were victims here, and but we were the ones under scrutiny, and I didn't get it.
Well, they were afraid you took one of the aspects of the story we always forget to mention is that you were into photography, you didn't take your camera. Toby had a camera with him, but you guys never even thought about taking a picture. But they were worried about you guys having a picture.
Yeah, I think they were scared to death that I had a 36
so.
exposure roll of film. Yeah,
Of this
God, I wish I had.
5-story triangle UFO aircraft. Look at the footage that we got now that we were talking about tonight. What do you think about that and the shape? It's a triangle shape. They call it the pyramid UFO, but I'm like, yeah, it's triangle to me.
It's a triangle. Yeah. I think it looks familiar.
And you see, I don't know if you watch that footage closely. You see like the shadow of another triangle ship flying just up higher than it. And going past it in that footage.
I did see that.
Yeah, that's why I don't buy it's just that's the camera distortion. I don't buy that at all.
Now, who took this film? I'd heard two stories. I heard that the Navy took it, and then I heard that it was taken with a phone.
No, it was the Navy, and it doesn't look like a phone. I mean, unless they're holding. Well, it is. Yeah, unless they're using the phone to record what they have on the night vision. Maybe I don't know, but I don't think so.
Yeah.
Because you see it's like a telescopic lens or something that they're shooting through.
Yeah.
It looks like military grade recording. They're trying to figure out what it was up there. Like I said, if it was planes, they would know. So, I mean, UFOs, you've the triangle was the biggest that you've seen, but you saw UFOs going back to your childhood. You cover all this in Incident in Devil's Den, and you kind of reapproach this in Devil's Den, The Reckoning. And Terry, it's really heartbreaking, your experiences as a child. I'd like to cover a little bit of that because you had this incident, and I've always theorized, and we can only speculate. But Toby came up with this idea for you guys to go out there. Toby had an interest in the stars and all that, and we've always speculated, wondered if Toby was an abductee before all this. But you definitely were, in my opinion. If something led you guys out there together to be taken, I feel like you were picked up for a reevaluation or something. I don't know, but you both went into the Air Force. If you were both abductees from childhood, and then you both decided to go in the Air Force at a nuclear base, almost makes me feel like they used you as spies.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's when we got there. Maybe it's because Toby called every left and right turn correct. It felt like we were keeping an appointment. I know that sounds strange, but it felt like we were where we were supposed to be.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. And for you, I mean, your childhood experiences in this book, you really kind of go back into it and reveal some stuff about your friend Ernie and your cousin Gerald, which are heartbreaking.
Yeah, they're both sad stories because they both had bad endings, but.
Well, heartbreak for you because you go in a childhood struggle, and it makes me. I think it's really important you're sharing this information and digging deeper into it in this book, because if there's still abductees happening, I mean, there's children right now being abducted.
Absolutely, there are.
And parents need to know the signs because what you went through, nobody believed you, and you were doing dangerous things. As a parent, I'm like, God, I want to make sure I recognize the signs of my child if something like this was going on, because you were trying to get a firearm and you putting a bayonet under your bed. You were ready to take them on as 8 years old?
Yeah. I knew that my dad had this old antique 32, but I'm sure it was lethal as heck. I mean, he had a 32 caliber revolver that he kept in the backboard of the bed. I mean, if people don't think their kids go through their stuff, think again. They do. They go through your stuff. And I knew where he kept this gun. I knew he kept the box. It was a cool old box. It was red and orange, or red and yellow. And it said something like Smith & Wesson 32 caliber cartridges, 50 cartridges or something. And he kept it loaded. And there were probably 30 rounds in the box. And I told my friend Ernie, I'm gonna borrow Dad's gun. And he says, why don't you ask your dad to shoot him? I said, I can't tip it off that I found his gun. That's not going to go over well.
Right.
So I said, no, what I'm going to, because my plan was this, I was going to take the gun. And the next time that these monkeys came into my room, I was going to shoot all 4 of them dead. And then say, look, told you,
What always creeped me out about your... You know what always creeped me out about your monkey story is at the time when I first read Incident at Devil's Den, my son, since an early age, has always had this bedtime story. Was his favorite is the monkeys jumping on the bed story. It's a song and a story, and 5 little monkeys jumping on the bed, And I'm like thinking about that when I'm reading your monkey story. I'm like, whoa, let's stop the monkey story.
Yeah. Now I got that running through my head. One fell off and bumped his head. Yeah.
I mean, was that around when you were a kid?
Yeah, I think so.
See, it makes me wonder what they, like some of these kids, they see clowns, and some of them see monkeys or other things. It's the screen memories. It's so fascinating.
I got letters from people saying that they saw owls, lots of owls, glowing white orbs. And I got this kid from El Paso, Texas, that I talked to, who complained of this white orb of light that would come through the screen window of his room, and it would manifest into a possum.
Yeah,
that was
a creepy story.
Possum. Yeah, that walked like a man and talked to him telepathically, but he could never quite remember what they talked about, but they talked for a while, and then the thing would go back into a ball of light and go through the screen and be gone. And
I see what makes me wonder, about my own past. I mean, everybody's heard my stories, the green floating head that I saw with my cousin. We both saw it.
Yeah.
Could that have been something else? Because later on in our life, me and my cousin Phil, we had some like weird dreams we shared that were alien-esque, evolved aliens, and here we were 4 or 5, and we saw this green floating head. Could that have been something else? It makes you wonder about all these paranormal phenomenon. Could it be something else? Could it be a screen memory?
Yeah. Yeah. My cousin saw little clowns, 2-foot tall clowns.
Gerald.
Yeah. Gerald.
That's such a sad story.
And that was happening at the same time. At the same time I was seeing monkeys, Gerald was seeing clowns,
Yeah.
And the joke is that I guess the Lovelace family fit the circus theme or something, but he was as traumatized as I was, but his folks, were devout Southern Baptist, and they believed that the thing that he was seeing was demonic in nature, and that it was a spiritual issue that could be worked out at the church.
Who could trick us into doing that? Could have been Satan.
That's what I think of. The response to that is the church lady. And then when I read this, your poor cousin, to be alone like that, to have these experiences and told it's your fault.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they were telling him. You have demons because you let them in.
Yep. And I tried to reassure this kid. I mean, we're both 8. I said, look, it's not your fault, man. It's not. I don't know what these monsters are. I don't know where they come from. I didn't understand ET. I didn't equate this to extraterrestrials until I was probably 15, 16.
I mean, you could easily thought they were some kind of demonic monkeys.
Yeah.
I mean, you could easily thought that just as much as the clowns seem demonic,
Yeah.
I mean, but it's interesting, he's 8, you're 8. You're both experiencing this, and you're both from the same family. And we talk about what family members and people are being followed or targeted certain genetic lines. And, how many more people in your family, you wonder, have gone through this?
I don't know. My dad was fascinated by UFOs. I wouldn't admit it. But every time a UFO related story would come on the television, he would be like, shut up, I want to hear this. turn the TV up and listen, and then, kind of sigh and say, it's probably the Russians.
But he didn't believe you when you saw one.
No. Well, no, he didn't.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why I think your experiences as a child are so important for people to read in case they have children and they're going through this. People need to know there's some signs here, that it's not just your child's imagination, and to listen. And we're approaching more awakened age where maybe people might catch on this is happening to their children.
Yeah, I sure listen to my kids. I'll tell you, one of the commonalities that I found in all of these letters that I got from people, all these emails, there is a demographic where people who are between the ages of, say, 2 and 7, they have a nightmare that they can remember. And it doesn't matter if they're 50, 60, 70, 80 years old, they have this nightmare. And they would write to me and tell me, I had this nightmare. And then they describe it. And sometimes they were just weird. Sometimes they were spooky. Sometimes they were obviously UFO related. Sometimes not. But they remembered these dreams just as vividly as if they'd experienced them last night. That dream had stuck with them. And I asked the same 3 questions to everybody that sent me that, because I tried to be kind of methodical about this. I said, can you tell me what you got for Christmas that year? Can you tell me where your family went on vacation that year? Can you tell me who came to your birthday party? Nope. I think one guy did, but everybody else,
Yeah.
it's all gone. It's gone, but they can remember that stupid little dream like it was yesterday.
Well, I'll tell you what, that green floating head I saw of my cousin, until he was 13, he had written it off as just a dream until I brought it back up to him. And then he's like, wait, that wasn't a dream? You remember that? I'm like, yeah, I was there with you. We saw a green floating head. And I remember the color just draining from his face. Like, it shook him to his bone at 13 years old. He was like, what? Like, that was a dream. No. He did not want, because it scarred you. He didn't forget about it. It's not like he forgot about it. He just wrote it off as a dream, but it scarred him. He never forgot it.
It's a big revelation.
That's what I'm saying. These weren't dreams for people. I have to point this one out. Mary here said, I did have a dream when I was older where I was with aliens on their ship and they healed me with my breathing asthma. That's really freaky because I had a similar experience that I haven't shared a lot, but I was really sick. And I told Terry this a couple weeks ago on your show, remember? Where I told you I was really sick, and I had this dream where these aliens took me and put this thing down my throat, flooded my lungs with this goop or whatever, and then pulled all this crap out of my lungs, told me to stop smoking. And I was like totally felt better and could breathe the next day. Yeah, I saw her comment. That kind of gave me a little bit of chills.
Yeah, you know what? I got letters like that. As a matter of fact, I included one of the stories in the book.
Yeah.
I call it E.T. Can Heal.
Yes.
That a woman sent me. But I got several stories like that. So, yeah, that happens.
See, and I wrote that off as a dream, and I still can't come to terms with it. You know what I'm saying? But I had that dream. I looked at it as a dream. I felt it was a dream, but I just thought it was a weird coincidence that I did feel totally better the next day. And you see how I look? I just wrote it off.
Yeah.
Because it had to be a dream.
And it might have saved your life.
Maybe. I kept on smoking for a long time after. I didn't listen to the aliens, but they might have saved me then. I don't know. It was a weird, that's why I saw her comment. I'm like, sorry, I had to comment on that. And yeah, you have these experiences of people, the aliens interfere in their health majorly.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a reason that they're helping you.
Or helping any of these people. I mean, it was a blood disease one woman you had in the stories, wasn't it? It was something really serious.
Yeah. Yeah, because her doctor, there was I didn't get copies of her medical records, but she said her medical records documented that she had it, and documented that she didn't, and there was no medical explanation.
Yeah, and why would they do that? Why heal people unless there's some reason? There's certain people they're choosing to follow.
If they're invested in you already,
right,
and tracking you, then it's in their best interest to keep you healthy, perhaps.
Maybe they wanted us healthy because right now we're doing what we're supposed to be doing.
I don't know. You were warned, though, Terry. We haven't gotten the Betty experience is the most. I mean, you Incident at Devil's Den. What happens at Devil's Den is incredible, but you have just as much incredible experience right on your couch or your sofa, wherever you were sitting in your living room.
I sure did.
When you had Betty show up. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, that was October 2017. Betty showed up. I woke up actually first. I woke up, and this is kind of far out there, I know, but this is the truth. And I woke up sitting in my chair in the living room, bolt upright. I mean, I'm sitting straight up, and I open my eyes, and I'm like, "Whoa, how'd I get here?" You know, because I've never sleepwalked, not a day in my life. And my first thought is I glance at the alarm, the house alarm box is to my left, and I glance over, and it's all the lights are lit. It's fine, and the cat's all chill and not upset or but seated across from me is what I first took to be a very petite woman dressed in black with like black nursing shoes on with a kind of like a high heel, I think to kind of compensate for her short stature.
Yeah.
And she had on this human wig that didn't fit her head because the back of her head was bulbous. It was big. And she's got this human hair wig kind of jammed on her head and these big oversized sunglasses stuffed up under the wig because she's got no nose to speak of. And, it was the same as when I saw the UFO in 1977. I had that feeling of calm. I wasn't freaked out. I wasn't, I could have screamed for my wife. I could have, but my mind is racing and she's sitting in this non-threatening posture. And I immediately felt that she looked familiar. And my first thought was, my God, I wish she'd take those glasses off. And then she did that, immediately. And she looked familiar. And I called her Betty. Because at the time, this wig was on askew, kind of sideways. And it reminded me there was a cartoon show in the 60s called The Flintstones.
Yeah, I think people have heard of it.
Yeah, one of the characters was Betty Rubble. And that's what she reminded me of, was Betty Rubble. So I thought, is this about the thing in my leg? And we communicated telepathically, and it was very easy. The only thing that was uncomfortable was I had this, when I realized we were communicating telepathically, and I recognized this woman. I knew her.
From your previous experience.
I did, from being a kid. I mean, from when they took me as a kid. And I felt this affection for her, in a maternal sort of way, like. And like seeing an old babysitter or something, And my thought was, is this about the thing in my leg? And she shot back, yes, it is. And she said, you're planning on having it removed by, because I was. I don't know how she knew that. How did they know that? But I was talking to a surgeon in Tijuana. I have heart problems, and I've had a couple of heart attacks. I could not get, a surgeon wouldn't touch me without a cardiac clearance letter, a letter from a cardiologist saying his heart's strong enough to withstand the surgery, and the benefit of the surgery outweighs the risk from anesthesia or possible infection.
Right.
And every cardiologist I talked to said, nope. Can't do it. And I guess it makes sense. And, they made the argument, look, these things have been in your body since 1977.
Not killing you, leave them.
Yeah, leave them alone. So.
Hey, Rob, if you look in the folder, you'll find a drawing he had of Betty. And there it'll be Betty/Sue or whatever photo sketch or something like that.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry, go ahead, Terry.
Yeah. So, I found a surgeon in Tijuana who was happy to remove it for me. And I was making arrangements to go to have it removed in December. I planned to have the book done in December. And what my plan was, I talked to this guy about, this doctor, about having it removed under a forensic protocol where it would pass through a chain of custody. They'd remove it from my leg, put it in an envelope, sign it. Then the surgeon would hand it right to my designated person to receive it. And then they'd sign it. They received it. Same way they go through. It's the same protocol they use, like if they're pulling a bullet out of someone's body, to establish a chain of custody. And I wanted to preserve the integrity of the item. Whatever it is, I wanted to preserve it and have it, and that was
Yeah.
going to be that was going to make my book. I'd say, here it is. No, come take a look at
I mean,
it.
we have the X-ray. There's X-ray photos in there too, Rob. I know you just put this up, but there is an X-ray. I have the X-ray photos of it. Like, there's one where you just see it's this perfect shaped square in your knee. And
Yeah.
imagine if you could have got your hands on that. Not those. Keep going. That's what afterwards. I think that's the wire that was left.
Yeah,
It should be in there. There it is, right there.
that's it. Yep. That's what's interesting is this looks like an electrical device, a square
Yeah.
about the size of your fingernail is how big it is. And it had two wires that ran up my leg. And this was down near my knee. And I was a runner for a long time. I ran from, 1979 through, well, till my first heart attack. And,
Yeah.
but I went to law school with this kid. I went to law school with this guy who went to work for the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. And they have the largest electronic database in the world, or electronic. It's a database of electronic devices, like
Yeah.
every resistor, transistor, capacitor, everything that's electrical, whether it's made in China or Europe or wherever, is in their database. And the reason for that is they invested the Lockerbie, Scotland bombing back in '89, I think. And that's how they found out who planted the explosives was tracing little pieces
parts.
of little electronic parts.
Yeah.
So for bomb reasons, that's why they keep this database. So he searched the database. Whatever this is, it's not in their database.
And why the knee? Like, what are they trying to monitor? Like your steps? Like,
Gosh, I don't know. Yeah,
I don't know.
Fitbit and do that. Yeah, I don't know.
And that's probably not the only implant they had in you, though.
You
This
know,
is
I
the
bet
one you
not.
found.
Yeah, I think so.
We have
I
a
mean, you
question.
should find out. You had.
We
Yeah,
have
go
a
ahead, Jamie.
question in chat wanting to know where the wires ended.
Yeah, there's a interesting story about that. The VA hospital took X-rays all the way up my leg, and they took 24 shots of my leg. And
Wow.
as soon as the radiologist came down and looked at this thing, and the radiologist said, "Well, would you have an accident with a radio or something? I mean, how did this thing get in your leg?" And I said,
Yeah.
"I don't have a clue." And he's like, "Well, you don't get something like this in your leg at that depth without there being a scar. There has to be a scar in your leg." And I'm like, "I don't have a scar." And he said, "Oh, sure you do. They move sometimes because, we gain, we lose weight." And he was going to make an issue of it. He turned the lights on in the X-ray room and took off my pants again and looked at my knee, and there is no scar. And that kind of freaked him out. He was kind of like, And I asked him, I said, "Doc, how often is it that you find something like this in the human body and there not be a corresponding scar?" And he said, "Never. Been a radiologist 23 years. I've never seen. I can't account for how this thing got into your leg." And I'm like, "Oh." But I was only able to I requested my X-rays. I was only able to get 4. And I threatened to take them. I said, if I don't have my X-ray, this went on for like 3 months.
Wow.
With multiple requests. And finally I went to the guy whose designation is the custodian of records for the VA hospital. And I said, if I don't have my X-rays in 72 hours, I'm going to file a lawsuit against you in the Dallas District Court, United States District Court, for keeping my medical records.
Well, you're a lawyer. I mean, geez.
Yeah, I mean, I know how to do that. Give me a crayon,
Yeah.
a piece of paper, $90, done deal, So, 24 hours later, I had my X-rays, but I only had 4.
At
I'm like,
4.
wait a minute. You guys took pictures of my leg for an hour. And I'm like, well, yeah, but those were so poor quality, we didn't keep them.
Okay, bull.
All right, yeah.
Seeing as you were in a VA, what a better way to monitor an abductee than somebody that's a veteran, and you have to go to the VA hospital all the time, for these things. And wow, the government just has easy access to monitor one abductee right there.
Yeah.
I mean, you really can't. I would say, Terry, I would not trust the VA with this stuff. So then Betty shows up knowing all this in your living room. There's stuff you didn't put in Incident at Devil's Den that she revealed to you about, like the future of mankind and other aliens.
There are.
That's in this book. I highly people got to read it.
Yeah, page 133.
But she had told you they were going to remove this implant before you could have it taken.
Her exact words were, she said that that thing can't fall into the hands of terrestrial scientists. And she said her host won't allow it. And I didn't know what she meant by host. I mean,
Right.
And she said, you call them aliens, I call them my host. And, she said, E.T. will come and take it out if that's your plan. And she advised me, she said, don't talk about this, don't write your book. Because you're talking about things that are important, and you don't know what's important and what's not.
Well, we got to go to commercial break. We're going to get to a lot more. There's so much more we got to get to, but we do have to go to commercial break. When we come back, I also will open up the phone lines. Don't forgive me if I keep you on hold for a little bit if you call in, because I do want to get to a lot of we haven't talked about yet tonight. But I do want to get your calls. I do want to hear your experiences or your questions for Terry. I know. Yeah, exactly. I mean, the fact that is what is it? The next day you woke up and this was out of you. Pretty much you were bruised, beaten up, and this was gone.
Yeah, it was a couple weeks later, actually.
It was a couple weeks later. That's what it was. But it wasn't long after. She was right. All right, guys, we'll be right back after a short commercial break.
Into the combined effects of sensory deprivation and hallucinatory drugs. The subject of the experiment is himself, and the experiment is out of control. Ken Russell's Altered States, a film that must not be missed, is in the West End now. Altered States, Certificate X.
Do you wish for more paranormal and spiritual content? The Paranormal Chronicles magazine is a free digital magazine crammed with the very best in paranormal and spiritual articles and features. No sign-up, no subscription, just free reading and knowledge for you. Read today at www.paranormalchronicles.com/magazine.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope.
That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
The night is alive. Join us and take a walk on the weird side when you tune in to the Kingdom of Nye, hosted by Heather Wade, the finest in late night talk. Listen live free weeknights starting at 9 p.m. Pacific time at thekingdomofnye.com, talkstreamlive.com, and the Paranormal Radio app. Wanna take a ride?
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do Voices from Beyond, the Cold Case Files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Paranation Magazine is a new paranormal magazine based out of Denver, Colorado. Our goal isn't just to give you the best paranormal content out there, but to promote paranormal unity. We're doing this by giving everyone an opportunity to tell their stories and to share their experiences. For more information, follow us on Facebook at Paranation Magazine and soon, paranationmag.com.
I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is the extraordinary travels of a young, alone, and broke psychic in the highly anticipated new book from internationally renowned psychic, medium, medical intuitive, and best-selling author Sherry Dillard. Critics have described I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like as an engrossing memoir, an empowering story of how a broken girl came to accept her psychic gift, a refreshing and fun read. I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is available through Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, and wherever books are sold.
Tired of school?
Who was Joan of Arc?
Noah's wife? Like to travel?
Let's go back into history. Let's reach out and touch someone.
Want to meet people in the past?
Put them in the Iron Maiden. Iron Maiden? Excellent! Execute them. Oh, yes.
Then hitch a ride with George Carlin, Keanu Reeves, and Alex Winter in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure from Orion Pictures.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from Talkstream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Please, Spock, do me a favor, and don't say it's fascinating. No. But it is interesting.
You're listening to Paranormal Soup, bringing you the weird every Sunday night. Call into the show and join the discussion. The call-in lines are 219-230-4444 or 260-225-9419 or by Skype caller ID Jblandoo or Jblandparanormalsoup. And now to your host, Jason Bland.
Tonight's guest is Terry Lovelace, returning to the show with his newest book, Devil's Den, The Reckoning. I haven't even asked him why he called it The Reckoning. We'll ask him that tonight. But I just finished the book, totally blown away, just like I was by the first book, Incident at Devil's Den. If anybody fascinated by the UFO abductee experience, or somebody who feels like they might be going through remembering certain experiences or are curious about it, I highly recommend these books. But with a word of warning, because if you might have had alien abductions, it definitely wakes those feelings in you. That's what I think might have done for me, because it's brought back a lot of things I just did not think about. Me being in the paranormal, always talking about the weird for years. I still didn't think about these experiences until I read Incident at Devil's Den, and this newest book's got me thinking about some other stuff just recently. So I highly recommend this for anybody that's fascinated by this subject. We are going to take your phone calls, but we got a lot of this story to get to. So if you call in, just remember, you just hang in there. We'll get to your call. And if you do call and I hang up on you, it's because I got somebody else on the line. So just try again. But let's go ahead and get to our guest. All right. So we were talking about Betty's warning to you about writing the book, and that you woke up a couple weeks later pretty battered.
Yeah, the bruises. I got pictures of the bruises in the book.
I got one of them in there, I think.
Yeah, you should have one.
Yeah.
And the bruises didn't show up for about 36 hours, but I had puncture wounds at the top of both legs that were deep and wide, but they didn't bleed. It's weird. I mean, you pull them apart and look down deep into my leg. They were deep wounds. They never got infected. They healed in, a week. And so I woke up and I knew. I mean, I don't know how I knew, but I knew. I told my wife, I said, I'm hurt. And I don't know why. This thing was down by my knee. Yeah, that's one. Yep.
What's so similar is it's got that kind of cauliflower or like flower pattern as that one X-ray does. That's like inside your leg.
Yeah, that thing's still there. That's never been touched. That's still there, still in a floret pattern, just like this wound.
The bruising, yeah.
And it's just odd that it would have the same shape. I don't get it. Daryl Sims says he's seen that kind of bruising with that puncture wound before.
That's what I say. There's got to be other people that have these same kind of markings.
Yeah. See, that's the floret pattern thing there in the calf muscle of my leg. That's still there.
Yeah, it's so similar. And that other picture, the actual bruising, that looks like that's up like near your stomach area or something.
It is. It's at the very top of my leg. So,
like they pulled a wire out or tried to.
That's exactly what I thought. I don't know how high up that wire went. And that'd be my guess. So, I told my wife they took this thing out of my leg last night. And I went to a chiropractor's office. And long story short, I showed him my x-rays and told him that, I had this thing in my leg and I think they came and took it out last night. And this guy was so cool. He said,
He was
awesome. He wrote me he said, I'll write your script for an x-ray. I don't have x-ray equipment here. You got to go down to the freestanding clinic about a mile away. I'll pay for your x-ray. All you got to do is promise not to use my name or the name of my clinic. And I'm like, deal. And I went down and I got the x-ray, and sure enough, that thing that looks like a electrical device was gone.
Yep.
And I thought, well, that's good news and bad news, I guess. I mean, I really wanted it in my hand. That's what I wanted.
Yeah, that would have been proof.
And
proof.
Yeah. So he got the x-rays and he said, did you see they left 2 wires in your body? And I'm like, no. And he showed me where to look. He showed me on the x-ray film. It didn't come out real good on the picture of a photograph. That's it. Those 2 white lines on the x-ray film, if you hold it up to a light source, you can see those are 2 tiny wires parallel to one another.
And they were in both your legs, both your knees, right?
No, just
this one?
Actually, I didn't have the left leg x-rayed.
You should.
I should have.
Yeah, I know you can, but yeah. Because was it Betty or somebody told you had one in both legs, basically?
She did. She did.
Yeah, Betty told you that.
He's the chiropractor. I asked this chiropractor, hey, if these things are so smart, there's so many, they're 500 rungs up the evolutionary ladder from us. How could they be so inept as to leave wires in my body? And he said, you don't get it. They don't do anything by accident. He said, they just gave you an upgrade. They put that in 1977. Now you got a 2017 model. I'm like, oh, okay.
Obviously, he had some knowledge or experience in this.
Had to have.
Had to have, because his interest in the book, when you talk about it, it's like, okay, this guy definitely is into it, knows something, or is a believer of some kind.
Sure was. Experiencer himself. He was just.
You could have walked into a million different chiropractors' offices and gotten laughed at, kicked out, but you happened to walk into one that was going to help you.
Yeah.
I find that interesting too.
I do too. It was great. So, yeah, Betty warned me not to talk about it, not to write the book. She said there are things that I know that I disclose that I don't know. They're important, but I don't know their importance, and they shouldn't be talked about. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to talk about everything I know, and the more I talk about it, the more I write about it, the more vocal I am, the safer I feel.
Yeah.
And
so now people know if something happens to you, people are going to question that.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Doesn't mean you're totally safe, though. Yeah, I could give some examples of why you might not be, but it does. I do think speaking out is the best way to fight.
Yeah, because I think humanity needs to know that this stuff is real.
Well, until you go back to Devil's Den next year.
anniversary.
Yeah, you guys can come with me. Bring some.
Hey, I'll do it.
I would love to. I would love to. My wife would kill me. She won't let me, but I would love to. And my wife will say no to that right now. I can guarantee it. 17 years of marriage, I know exactly what my wife's be like. Oh, hell no, you ain't going.
Yeah, I'm going to have a tough time with that too. Yeah.
Yeah, I bet Sheila's like, oh, yeah, sure, go. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I'd be a little scared for you, honestly, to go just but I also, there's a part of me, I'll be honest, that wants you to. I will be honest. There's the mad scientist in me, that, you'll be fine, Terry. Just go ahead. Let's see what happens. That's awful. You're my friend. I don't want to see anything bad happen to you. So there's a big part of me that doesn't want you to go. But there's a little part that does.
Well, you know what? I'm thinking I want to go at night. I really am. And with some night vision
I wish
goggles.
I could go with you. Oh my God, I would go with you. I would go with you in a heartbeat if I didn't have my. I love you, honey. I love you. I know why you don't want to go. I have responsibilities. I'm a father, but I want to go. I want to go. It's not that I'm not
single.
scared.
I don't have any children.
It's not that I'm not scared. I don't want to get abducted. I don't want anything to happen to anybody or myself. But man, I would want to go. Oh, I would want to go.
We'll see. We'll see if that happens.
Yeah. You have to talk my wife into it, Terry. After you talk yours.
I was going to say, you see how I do here.
Yeah, good luck with that. Let me know how that goes, and you try to talk to my wife if it's successful. Because I don't. Yeah, she wouldn't let me go.
Yeah, I got a daughter wouldn't let me go.
Yeah. See, your children. They didn't know about all this for so long.
They did. All they knew. Yeah, my wife and I, because we were married in '77, and she said, "Look, we're not going to tell the kids. We're not going to tell the children about this." We didn't have children until 6 years later, but we'd already agreed that was the program. We weren't going to tell them about it. So the kids knew that Dad would have a screaming nightmare once or twice a year.
Yeah.
But that's all they knew. And my daughter's a scientist.
As I say, yeah.
So she was married to an engineer. So
that had to been an interesting conversation before the book came out.
It was. She's like, I love you. You're still Dad. I'll talk to you every day, but we can just not talk about this. And I'm like, that's fine, no problem. I don't care. As long as I'm still Dad, I don't care.
But you had to wonder the whole time as a parent. Like, I'm sure the fear was there. Are they going to come after my children?
Oh, absolutely. Now, when I told my son and daughter at the same time, and my son was kind of quiet, unusually quiet. And afterward, when it was just me and him, he said, "I got to tell you, when I was 13, I saw a little gray guy peeking around the corner of my door in the middle of the night." And I said, "Well, it could have been a dream." And he says, No. He said, I woke up, I had my feet on the floor. This was no dream. And I said,
Wow.
"There's anything else you can remember?" He says, "No." I said, "Well, why didn't you tell me?"
Because he didn't know.
Yeah, he said, I just didn't, because people don't tell people. People are that's like me. I didn't talk about it for 40 years. I was, really, really reticent to talk about it. And, when I talked about it, I felt guilty. How weird is that? I felt like I was betraying some kind of fiduciary trust or a family secret of some kind that, weird. But I think they programmed that in us.
Yeah. But, the one aspect of this we haven't even gotten into is Toby or Tobias, which isn't the real name. We don't ever use the real name because, he was your friend, and you kind of get into the reckoning a little bit more about, like, what happened to him afterwards.
Yeah.
It wasn't good.
And it wasn't good. And I wonder about that, because I came out of this and had a good life. And, he should have had the opportunity to do the same. And, right after this happened, we spent 3 days, 2 nights in the hospital, and then we were off duty for 30 days. It took us a while to get our strength back. And, he had trouble sleeping I had trouble sleeping. He had struggles. I had my struggles of my own, but he, the last time I saw him, I went to his house to say goodbye. And this was like 6 weeks after we got back from Devil's Den.
Yeah.
And I went up to his house, did what I always did. I mean, I'd been through his front doorway 100 times. I knocked 3 times. I opened the door because it was never locked. I said, "Hey, it's me, guys. How you doing?" And his wife walked by and said to me, "You're not supposed to be here," because we were both under orders to have no contact.
Right. And why? But
And
that's a whole other story.
You know what? Robert Hastings explained that to me. Robert Hastings, who wrote UFOs and Nukes,
Yeah.
said that that's common practice. Common practice. So anyway, I said, "Yeah, I'm not here to cause any trouble. I just want to say goodbye to my friend." And Toby heard our exchange, and he walked around the corner, and he just looked like a train wreck. I mean, his hair was all sideways. He hadn't shaved. His T-shirt was dirty. He was barefoot. He was the kind of guy that, I mean, if we were going to go play volleyball, he looked good,
Yeah.
You know those guys, right?
Yeah.
I was always the slob of the duo, but he was always meticulous about his appearance. And it was kind of shocking, but I thought, I'll cut him some slack. He's moving. I really felt that I needed to see this guy to process this whole thing. I thought that it would give me
Closure.
Closure's the word, yeah.
Yeah.
Help me put it to rest, and then maybe I could sleep, and but it didn't work that way. It didn't work the way I thought it would work. As soon as I saw him, I just felt stunned or something. And it was real awkward. And he walked up to me, and I stuck my hand out, and we kind of managed a handshake. And he looked up at me, and he said, "It happened, didn't it, Terry?" And I said, "Yes, my brother, it really happened, and you're not losing your mind." And then he looked up at me again, and he said, "Yeah, but why us?" And I said, "Man, I ain't got a clue." And I ran out of the door, and back into the car and home, and felt unsettled for a couple of days after the event. So,
See, he was asking the question, though. Why us? And I really wonder if he was really searching his own childhood memories at that point.
I think so,
Thinking about
too.
stuff he pushed away or didn't think about after, and then they brought it all back.
I thought about that for years. Yeah,
he
you're
wasn't
spot
a
on.
drinker. He wasn't a drinker, and when you last saw him, he was kind of toasted.
Yeah, he was. He was. And he asked those two questions. He asked in a specific order.
Yep.
It happened, didn't it, Terry? Because he had to establish that it was a real event.
Right.
And then he could ask, "Why us?" So it made sense the way he put it together in his mind. And the "why us?" And who knows? I mean,
Like I said, I really, really think there's something to the fact that if you both were childhood abductees, and that you both end up in the Air Force, and you both end up working in a place where there's nuclear, weapons.
Yeah.
And then the aliens' interest in anything nuclear, what we've seen, their attention to nuclear bases and Navy ships, it makes you wonder. I mean, were you guys infiltration? The military would think that or wonder that.
that may have been why the OSI was so interested in me.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, they obviously knew about abduction. Like I said, I covered this when we had you on. We're going to get into it, but one of the most fascinating things of Incident at Devil's Den to me was the interrogation when they put you under hypnosis, and the doctor doing it. Really, I mean, he knows people are being abducted. He's familiar with this whole thing.
Oh yeah, he knew. Well, the OSI agent, when he saw me in the hospital bed, said, asked me, all I want to know is how many pictures you took of it.
Yeah, he knew.
Yeah, he knew.
That's the thing; they were aware of it. This unit, I feel like it's a unit that went after you in the OSI, that dealt with these kind of cases. They knew about abductions, and if it dealt with anybody on a military base that was nuclear powered, boy, they really had to have some worry and interest in that.
Yeah, I think you're right. And then especially if we came back, if they did register radiation on us, that would be, because radiation was a big issue there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, didn't they try to like explain it off that you guys like slept on a uranium deposit or something like that?
Yeah, this old doctor, this old colonel. I don't know how somebody this age was still on active duty, but he was. But he was a full colonel, and he came in to me into my hospital room the morning that I was getting discharged. And he sat down and he said, "Well, you're feeling better." And I said, "Yeah, I do feel some better. My eyes are a little better." And he says, "Well, we got this figured out." He said that, because in my book, I talk about we went for a hike and we got tired and we found this nice, cool outcropping of limestone rock with a canopy of tree over it. And it was a cool spot to take a rest. And we laid down on that rock and weirdly, we fell asleep. And I don't know what happened during those couple hours. I'd like to know about that. But he said, you guys, you laid on top of some natural uranium deposit that irradiated your body, and that's what caused your injuries. And I didn't believe that. And I said, "Am my eye injury too, doctor?" And he says, "Oh yeah, that can happen. That can happen." I said, "Well, I see." And and then he said, and I want to tell you this because it's important. Now, you might have some funny dreams after this, but, you should just ignore them. And I wouldn't discuss them with anybody. It's nobody's business. And if you discuss them, they'll keep coming back. If you just ignore them, they'll go away.
Yeah, like they already know the side effects of alien abduction. That's what it tells me. And they wanted to erase your memory. They gave you pills. Remember they gave you the pills that try to make you forget. Like they had a lady that would come by, a nurse, whatever, every day. And
I went into that in The Reckoning. That's kind of a cool story. Yeah,
it is. Yeah, I mean, no, it shows the length that they're willing to go just to keep your testimony in a way from getting out there. I mean that they make sure he gets those pills every day. They sent a lady there. You want to make sure you took them by order, and wouldn't even tell you what they were.
Yeah, 6:30 every night. Yeah, it's the only time I ever got medicine in my life that came in a bottle that only had instructions. It didn't say what the medication was.
And I'm like, you expect me to take this? You don't even tell me what it is? Screw you.
Well, I looked through. This was 1977. They didn't have the internet, but there was a publication that was done yearly called the Physician's Desk Reference. They probably still have it. Maybe it's all online now, I guess, and it had glossy color plates in it that showed every single pill in the United States formulary, everything that was authorized to be dispensed by a pharmacy. If it was, it would be the picture of it would be in that book. And these capsules were nowhere to be found. And
it's too bad you didn't keep one. Damn it!
Oh, I know. I wish I'd kept just one.
I know, but you were flushing them, so it looked like you took them.
Yeah, I flushed them down the toilet. The captain, there was a nurse. Nurses are officers. And I was an NCO. But I was close with this nurse, nice lady, and she came over to I called her at work, and I said, "Can you tell me what these pills are?" And she said, "I'm kind of busy right now, but maybe I'll stop by after my shift." And she hung up, and I figured, she knows I'm under scrutiny by the OSI. She don't want to say anything on the phone. And I told her, I said, I'm expecting company at 6:30. So, come after company. So she came up by my house around 8. And she came in, hugged me, hugged my wife, and we sat down and talked. And because I took those pills for 3 days. And I was stupid. I mean, I don't know how to explain. I couldn't balance my checkbook. I couldn't find my car keys. I didn't read. I was watching cartoons all day. It's just not me.
And they were probably making Toby take those pills too.
Yeah. So, and I suspect that maybe that was the cause of his decline, was those pills, because they were poison. And if he took I know how goofy they made me taking 3 days of them. If he took 14 days of those, I could see that ruining your life. I sure could.
Right. And they didn't care. That's what I'm saying. They didn't care what happened to you guys, as long as you shut up.
long as we shut up. And those pills didn't come from ET.
So how does that make you feel about government? Everybody's saying the government's going to be disclosed. I keep calling BS on that.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
What didn't you, if I remember right, because I just finished this. In 2000, it was 2017. You had Betty, right, show up in your house. She had comments. She had comments on this about the disclosure too, that you didn't put in Instant Devil's Den.
She did. As a matter of fact, this was 2019. It was December. Pardon me, right. November. I can't remember the exact date. November 21st. November 21st, 2019. I was sitting right here, and I mean, I was typing and stuff. I was working. Didn't have my head down. I wasn't taking a nap, and I sensed motion to my left, and right over there,
yeah,
she was sitting in a chair. And I had that calm. I wasn't freaked out. I wasn't wigged out. I was really curious, though. And as weird as this sounded, it felt good to see her again.
Because you almost wondered after the 2017 incident, after all that you were never going to see her again.
Yeah. And I think I said that. I think I said my first words to her were, "My gosh, it's good to see you again." And she replied, "It's good to see you, Terry." And she said some cryptic things to me that turned out to be really prophetic. And she said that on February 1st, the world will change. And on February 2nd, it will be a new world. What's curious is Whitley Strieber was asked. I didn't want to ask him myself because I didn't want to lead him with a question. I asked my friend Leslie Kane to ask him for me if he had any feelings about 2020. And he says, yeah. He said, I got a really bad feeling about 2020 beginning in February. And of course, this is when COVID hit the United States. And, Betty used the words, on February 2nd, it will be a new world.
Couldn't be more right about that.
Yeah, no kidding. And what's his name?
I had a bad feeling too. about 2020. I didn't have aliens tell me. I just had an instinctful bad feeling. I talked about it plenty on this show before 2020 that, I have a bad feeling about 2020.
Well, his book, what's his name? Just said his name. He wrote Communion.
Oh, Whitley Strieber.
Yeah, Whitley. Whitley said, Whitley wrote a book titled A New World. And he talks about when I was with him in Pine Ridge, South Dakota, and we saw some amazing, crazy things. And he talks about that experience. But he kind of hints around. It's a good book to read. It's a short book. Hints around that things are going to be changing. So I took her words at first to be good news. I thought, oh boy, sounds like there's going to be disclosure or something cool happening. And then, the next morning I knew it was bad news. I absolutely knew it was bad news. And, in January, early January, I rebuilt my stockade fence. I put motion detector lights out. I went out and I bought all this food. My wife's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm just putting some extra food in the garage in case, because I've never been a prepper kind of guy, I've never, and she's like, what's with all these flashlights,
And I tell you what, though, something instinctively happened with a lot of people of my family, my wife and me. We were like getting bottled water, stocking up, and we even got a big thing of toilet paper before anything was ever mentioned about COVID. And then everybody's running out of toilet paper. Like, well, we're all set.
Yeah. And you know what? It was good we were so well prepared because, we had that. I don't know if you guys heard about the ice storm in Texas.
Oh, yeah.
254 counties in Texas, everyone declared a disaster. And for us, we've lived in Michigan and in Vermont. It's nothing, but the houses and the roads, there's nothing to grade the roads. There's no sand. There's no snow plows. The houses aren't made for it.
No.
So luckily I had enough firewood. I got a big fireplace and I just kept a roaring fire going, and it kept the house warm enough that our pipes didn't freeze. But whole lot of people had burst pipes. But,
Oh yeah, I bet. Just not built for that. Well, like I said, this instance you had with Betty, she also she relayed some information about the Trump and the disclosure along the lines of that he was warned not to, that they pulled back on the disclosure or something like that.
yeah, that actually came from Haim Ashed.
Oh, that was it. That's Haim Ashed. That's right.
Yes.
The Israeli astronaut, isn't he?
Yeah, he wasn't an astronaut. He was in
Or an
charge of
astronaut.
Israel's space protection program.
That's what it was. Yes,
Yep.
that's right.
He was a general, decorated all kinds of times, and was working as a university professor, and came out in an article in the Jerusalem Post dated December 8th. And in it, he says that, and this is kind of strange, he says that there's the United States, Israel, and ET are all parties to a treaty. And ET is from a galactic federation, which kind of sounds really Star Trek-y to me, but, I guess I shouldn't dismiss it for that. And Haim Ashed said that Donald Trump had planned to disclose to the public the full story about the treaty, and ET persuaded him not to do that.
Yeah, that's right.
And then he
I don't know. I don't think anybody can spray him to do nothing. So that's hard. It's a hard story for me to believe, but okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, I
But
would
you
have loved
wondered.
to have been in that room and heard that conversation. Right? Yeah, but
more like the military channels they used to probably convince him not to. That's what I think.
yeah, that'd be my guess. Yeah, it'd be a tough.
It does seem like there's been some pullback. It just seemed like there was some pullback, like when they released the original like Tic Tac video and all that, and there was confirmation from the military. Then there was like some pullback on it, so it does kind of line up with what he was saying.
I think there's two competing factions, and maybe Haim Ashed is. I took him as being a real credible guy. I got friends in Tel Aviv who tell me, yeah, he's like the Buzz Aldrin of Israel. He's a cool guy and well respected. And but in his article, because I read it like a dozen times because I like looking for the nuances. And in it, he says that the world's population is not ready to hear this news yet. They're not ready until they understand these 6 words I don't get. Understand the nature of space and spaceships.
Yeah.
What a weird statement that is.
What does that have to do with us?
I mean, we got to take a physics class before we can get this information. I mean,
maybe that they're interdimensional. I don't know. The reason I've always wondered if the reason it can't be disclosed, and getting back to Whitley Strieber, because I'd called John Lear was on Heather's. Somebody else was hosting on Heather's line there. I'm not going to say who, but he had John Lear on. And I called in to ask him the infamous question about the moon being a soul capacitor for aliens, and that, aliens are at the end of the light at the end of the tunnel. Classic Art Bell, interview that he did, where he talked about, aliens basically controlling our souls and our reincarnation and all this. And when I called and asked John Lear about this, he goes, oh, yeah. I know. He's like, a lot of that came from Whitley Strieber, actually, because the night before we were talking about this stuff, and that's kind of where I got on that idea. And so it came from Whitley. We'd be really interested, and that's something me and you have talked about. Is like, what is the connection to the afterlife and aliens?
Man, there's got to be one. I had people from the near-death experience community write to me and say, do you know how much stuff we have in common?
Yeah.
And at first I thought, well, I mean, we both had life-changing experiences, but, I read some of these emails, and it kind of makes me scratch my head and wonder, where do you draw the line to separate the paranormal from the supernatural?
Right. You don't. Because you don't know which one's which, or maybe they're all together. I watched you did a thing with, was it Bruce Leininger, the father of the reincarnation?
Yes, Bruce Leininger. Yeah.
Bruce Leininger. Yeah. I thought that was really interesting. You guys did this kind of like duo conference together, and he tells his side of what happened with his son and discovering all this stuff about reincarnation, and then it kind of leads into you and your experience, and it's like, see, these are two things that could be connected. I mean, there's stories in your book of like a woman who's having her baby, her miscarriages, whatever, but the baby's being taken from her. Or what did they tell her? when she has an experience where she's being shown one of her fetuses and she's upset, like, give it back to me, like, you chose this.
You chose this. That's right.
When did she choose it? Was it during an abduction, or did she choose this before she ever came to this life?
Yeah.
Like, what are the past life connections? Because the experience I try to like remember that happened on this camping trip. Remember I tell you that I was being told things. One of the main feelings I had was I've been found. I haven't even gone over that with you.
Yeah.
But there was a feeling there like, oh, shoot, they found me.
Yeah.
That was a feeling I had that when I woke up, and a feeling that kind of always is in the back of my mind, like I was found.
That's really significant. I mean, that's really that's about as significant as me saying that I felt like we were keeping an appointment when we got on top of this meadow. It's kind of the same thing.
Right. If aliens are more evolved than us spiritually, then they know, and in reincarnation is a real thing, which I believe it is, then they understand more of the dynamics of reincarnation, and maybe they are looking for certain souls on this planet.
Yeah. Well,
maybe because we're alien souls on other planets.
Well, Edgar Cayce said that in one of his books. That
I'm a big Edgar Cayce fan.
Yeah. Beings from other planets can incarnate here, and vice versa. So,
and wouldn't these, so you were some alien warrior in another, planet millions of years ago, and they wanted to find you here. I mean, I know this is way out there for people, but this is the stuff I think about just from my own experiences. Oh,
yeah.
Make sure I'm like so sucked in this conversation. I don't know if people have been trying to call in. I caught one phone call here. Hopefully, again. I'm like totally not paying attention because I'm sucked in this conversation. And we should get to a phone call before we run out of time before the next commercial break. So we got Zach on the line, who is my all-time favorite caller. I love everybody that calls in. Zach's been calling in the longest, and he always has the most intelligent questions. So how you doing tonight, Zach?
Hey, Zach, we've talked before.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Terry, good to see you, man. Jason, I'm doing pretty good, man. I feel really bad I missed your show last week, man, but had a family emergency come up, and I had to miss it, so I'm glad to be back here.
It's always up on YouTube for you to watch later. Shameless plug. Go ahead.
Yeah, but I'm lazy. That's the downside. So, anyway, I just have two questions, and I'll keep them as short as possible. Terry, always love hearing your story, man. It was awesome, also awesome to see you also on The Outer Realm about 2 weeks ago. So, just want to do a shout out on that too.
Thank you.
So, my first question to you is, did you have any ET related experiences? I know you were talking about that you had them outside of the incident, outside of Devil's Den. Did you have any whenever you had your political career also?
Not so much. No, I can't say that I did, except for 1987. 1987 was the one year, 10 years after Devil's Den, that I had 2 years of missing time on a motorcycle ride. Now, I will say this, about every year, probably every other year of my life, I see something in the sky. And it's crazy because I can see it. My wife can't see it.
I know. I find that so interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, not so much when I worked.
Which is probably a good thing.
It was.
It's been hard to have a career.
Yeah, I had enough to do anyway. Yeah.
All right. And then my second question, it goes along actually with this possible experience. I don't know if I was abducted or not in this scenario, but I remember when I was a kid, I remember being woken up one night by my dad, because my dad was an electrical engineer for a hydroelectric plant out in central Pennsylvania. We had my siblings and I, we were all woken up because my dad had to go into the plant. There was some kind of emergency that was going on. And I remember just sitting out there in the van over with my brothers and my sister. And my sister looks up in the sky and she says, "Look, there's something up in the sky." And I remember looking up there and I saw this orange object that was up in the sky. And I can't really remember anything apart from that. There's like a time gap right in between there. Because I do remember us driving back home after it happened. And I thought about undergoing hypnosis to see exactly what I could possibly remember for that. So my question to you is, if I ever do decide to go under hypnosis, what are some recommendations that you can be able to give to me to be able to discern what actually happened versus just a random idea that comes in that never actually happened?
Yeah, to validate it and get it validated from somebody who is who's trained and who's done this before. I know a couple of people. There's Yvonne Smith, who's in the LA area, and Yvonne has been regressing people for that reason. You know, regressing people like us for 35 years, and she's very, very good at it. And you know, she has people who've said, you know, oh yeah, it sounds like a bad dream to me, and then she's had people that come out and you know, they had real genuine experiences, and she helps them validate that. Kathleen Marden also does the same thing, and she's in Florida. Probably my best friend in Dallas is a psychiatrist who does hypnotic regression and has a real interest in this stuff. That was odd. I met him at a MUFON meeting in Dallas. I spoke at the meeting. I'm not a MUFON member, but I spoke at the meeting, and afterward he came up and asked me a bunch of questions and introduced himself. And I said, well, you know, it's kind of an odd place to see a psychiatrist. And he's like, well, yeah, and, you know. And he said that for years he had these people, because in medical school he was taught, somebody comes in and says they've been abducted. It's confabulation. It's a sign of some kind of underlying psychopathy or
sexual abuse is what they usually turn to.
Or sexual
that's
abuse.
big time.
Yep, that's big time. Yeah, he said that. But it's not, you know, it's not aliens, of course. But he said, you know, look, I've had patients over 30 years that came to me with these stories, and there was no underlying psychopathy. There was no underlying sexual abuse. There was nothing, you know. And he says, I think these people were really abducted. And I said, well, you know, I'm glad to hear a person, you know, a medical person say that.
Right.
And, you know, there is an organization called OPUS, opusnetwork.org. And OPUS stands for the Organization for Paranormal Understanding and Support.
Yeah.
And they have a list of therapists, psychiatrists, psychologists that are kind of like UFO friendly.
Open to it. Yeah.
Open to it. Yeah. Not dismissive of the idea. And you could go on, depending on where you are live geographically, go on opusnetwork.org and you'd find them. They're a nonprofit. I used to be on their board. Linda Moulton Howe was on their board. They're honest, decent people, so you could trust them. You know, they're not going to charge you money or do anything that they're going to do, be nothing but helpful. But they keep a list of people that are open to the idea. So,
well, thank you, Zach, for calling in.
Thank you, Zach.
Absolutely. Thank you, Terry, so much for answering my questions. And if you ever do go back out over to Devil's Den, I will tell you, brother, I am down for that trip, no problem.
Oh, God,
and if
I want to go.
And if I ever happen to be abducted, the only thing that my fiance would say is, I really hope that they can be able to fix him so that way he doesn't have a huge potty mouth whenever he comes back. So
they can't fix that.
So.
Maybe. I don't know. All right, Zach, you have a great night, bud.
Take care.
Have a good night, everybody.
You know, it made me think about how therapist trees. There's one of your stories we can get into tonight. We got a little bit of time for the next commercial break. A woman who emailed you about her and her sister when they were children, who saw the merry-go-round, and the way the therapist tried to explain it to her was horrible. But that's a whole interesting story. That was one of the ones I thought we could talk about tonight. You know,
I'd like to talk about
that. That was one of my favorite ones. I think out of all of them, that kind of reminded me of it.
I don't know if I mentioned it in the book, but we actually met in person. We met in Texarkana.
Yeah, you did. You did mention you met.
Yeah, we had lunch together, and just real impressive, real believable lady. I mean, and just an incredible story.
Well, let's talk. We got about 15 minutes before commercial break here.
Oh,
Or
okay.
About 10 minutes. 10 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, let's get into this one a little bit because this is out of a lot of the emails. This is one of the most interesting ones by far.
I think so too. Yeah, two little girls. The woman's she's 60. Well, she'd be 64 now, I guess, and she's a nurse anesthetist. I checked with the board of nursing in the state where she lives. I changed the state. She didn't care about her name, but she wanted her, for professional reasons, she didn't want her state disclosed. But I verified through the board of nursing that she actually is a nurse anesthetist and been in practice for years. And she told me when she was 9, she had a younger sister who was 7. She was 9, her sister was 7. Julia is the woman, and Molly was her 7-year-old sister. And every summer they would go spend a week at their maternal grandparents' place in Oklahoma. And they had a big farm, and the girls knew the rules. They could play in the front yard all they want. There was a garden, a couple of big trees, and they could play there till their heart's content. But the rules were that there was a berm, a big dirt mound road. Grandpa could drive his tractor on it, she said. And they couldn't cross over that berm because in back of that berm was where all the farm stuff was. There were farm equipment and animals.
Dangerous stuff, yeah.
Dangerous stuff, and a pond, a farm pond 12 feet deep. So they were worried the girls might go back there and drown. But, they'd been there every year since they'd been infants, so they knew the rules. And by coincidence, this happened to be the first year that they let the girls out without constant supervision. And they were in the front yard, and she said that they heard calliope music, like a circus would play, a steam-powered thing with the pipes. And, and back in the day, they used to have circuses that would travel around. And so the girls were excited. They're like, oh, boy, it's a circus. And, of course, where's the music coming from? The other side of the berm.
Mm-hmm.
So Julia says, the rules. We can't cross the berm. We got to go get Grandpa. And Molly might have made a good lawyer. Molly says, yeah, but Grandpa didn't say we couldn't stand on top of it and look. And Julia's like, yeah, okay, I'm in. Yep, loophole. Let's go. So they scamper up this berm, and they're standing on top of it. And they saw what she'd said was the biggest merry-go-round she'd ever seen in her life. And it was at least 3 or 4 feet off the ground because they could see it was almost noon, perfect shadow underneath it. And it was spinning way too fast for anybody to safely get on or get off. And she said the horses looked like they were alive and that this thing was wrapped in lights blinking all around it. And she said they were just mesmerized by this thing. And they felt real satisfied to have seen it. And they laid back on the grass on the side of the berm, and they were holding hands, and they're watching this thing. And while they're watching it, they both blank out. So Grandma and Grandpa come out, and her grandma and mother come out to call the girls in to eat lunch, and there's no answer because they're not there. They're nowhere in the front yard. And then they think, oh my God, they could be in the backyard. And they go in the backyard, and then they get neighbors to help look. And there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes on. He calls the VFW hall. Fellow vets come down and help look. And there was a car that was lost that came up the driveway and then turned around. And the police investigated as to some guy lost. And they're going crazy looking for these little girls. And 4 hours pass. And by this time, the sheriff has these 2 guys in what he called a John boat. In the pond, and they got these long poles, and they stir up the water to try to see if maybe the girls had drowned.
Yeah.
Because that was the biggest fear. That was kind of what they were expecting. And the guy who was there were 2 of them, but this one guy was looking as he was working. He could see the side of the berm, and he said there was absolutely nothing there. And then he's doing this some more, and he looks up again, and there are the girls, and they're bone dry, and they're laying asleep on the side of this berm, still holding hands exactly the way that they had sat down. And everybody goes nuts, and they come over, and the girls were hard to wake up. They were deeply asleep,
Yeah.
And where you been? What happened to you? We don't know. So, but to cut to the chase, those girls were changed after that.
Yeah.
And I found that really interesting. Like Julia, the older one, always struggled with math. Well, she goes back to school after summer vacation, and fractions are what's on the curriculum, and she just nails them. It's like, this stuff's easy. So she went from being a C student to a straight A student, and found school suddenly easy. And
Wish aliens would have done that for me.
yeah, no kidding. I mean,
Right?
they could have done more. Done something for me. Yeah, I mean,
I suck at math. That would have been awesome.
I'm terrible at math. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't solve for X. What do you mean solve for X? I know what X is. So, but Molly had a change in personality and became kind of sullen and withdrawn, and was diagnosed later in life as having bipolar disorder. And she said that throughout their whole life that they would never, ever talk about what happened at Grandpa's. And Molly comes down with breast cancer, terminal breast cancer. This was 2016. And Julia took off work, Family Medical Leave Act, and took off time because they weren't close, and to go to Kentucky where she was and be with her while she was in hospice. And they spent time together in hospice and talked, and but they were never close again. They were really close as little kids, and then they just,
You're right.
And Julia asked her, she said, can we talk about what happened at Grandpa's? And Julia just said no, and turned her face to the wall, and died the next day. So go figure. I mean,
Well, what I found really interesting in that, and you bring this up in the book, is we talked about psychologists labeling these abductions as sexual abuse, but how it does relate to how it is similar to sexual abuse, the fact that they were two little girls that were violated. I mean, she did have, remember you put in there, she did have one conversation with her sister earlier in their life where she did talk about it once and did admit that something happened, and they touched her down there, basically. It traumatized them both.
That's right.
I mean, neither one ever had children, right? I mean,
no, actually, Molly had a couple of kids.
she did have, but I knew Julia. She knew right away, like remembrance of the experience, that she would never have children after it.
She knew that, yeah.
Yeah, at a young age, to know that thought, to have that thought, it's just horrible.
It is horrible, and the way the psychologist treated her just enraged me. Yeah, it was just horrible to read. And
he basically correlates to like she abused her younger sister, and that's what caused.
He accused her of that. Yeah.
Yeah. He threw out everything she said, all the witness testimony, all of it's mistaken. No, you're mistaken. Your memory's mistaken. You didn't want to listen at all. That's so frustrating.
You've got a guilty conscience because of what you did. That's why you're here. Yeah.
Do need to lay it off the Freud. I mean, come on, listen to your patient. She wouldn't tell you all these things like this if that was the case. It wouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. How many people are, I mean, I remember, what's it, the 80s or 90s when there were specials on 2020 about hypnotists giving people false memories about sexual abuse.
Yes, I remember that.
Remember that?
I do remember that. I remember that clearly because there was that daycare center where like 7 employees got accused of sexual abuse, and in the end, none of it ever happened.
Or did it?
Yeah.
Right, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Can you trust anything? Anyone? What are they hiding? I don't know. But, that's what I admitted to you. I have my problems with hypnosis, and I have respected friends and people that have been on the show that do past life regression. For instance, I had that done by Chris Lee. It was really interesting. But when it comes to me doing it for my experiences with alien abduction, I'm a little worried because I don't know how I can trust my own, because it's like, to me, it felt like when I was being hypnotized, it was like a guided meditation. It's like the first thing that comes to your brain, what do you see? What's happening? My sci-fi brain could come up with a lot of weird crap. I've seen enough. I've read enough.
Yeah.
I could not trust myself. That's why I don't, I haven't done it.
Yeah. I'm kind of afraid of what's going to come out. I mean, I'm kind of afraid of what I'm going to see.
See, for you, it's so verifiable, everything you had happen to you. I would be more interested to see what you would have under a hypnotic regression, to deep more into what you've experienced. For me, I don't know if I could trust it. I didn't have the full physical experience you did. There's undeniable proof of your experience, in my opinion.
Well, I got that in the form of an X-ray, but
yeah.
But I mean, really, you don't know. I mean, you can't account for every, missing time is just such a weird thing, because I experienced it in 1987. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was on my motorcycle doing 60 miles an hour, and then I blinked my eyes. I'm on a gravel road doing 30.
Yeah,
And,
that would be so scary.
And it's absolutely seamless. I mean, it's like you're in a movie and somebody chops out 30 feet of film and then just splices it back together. It's that seamless.
See, I told you, we joked about this recently when I was on your podcast. We got to go to commercial break, but about when I first interviewed, I've never had any missing time that I know of, and then it was last year. I had one instance in the middle of the night where I missed an hour. I looked at my clock. I know I looked at my clock. It was 3:30, and I went to the bathroom, took a leak. Be graphic with people, washed my hands, came back, and it was 4:30. I know I didn't look at the clock wrong, and the next morning my white shirt had blood spackle on it, all over it, and my ring was broke.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a weird experience. I'm like, okay, I don't know if I could say I've never had missing time again. And
I don't think you can.
Yeah. I don't know. We got to go to commercial break, though. Phone lines are still open, guys. When we come back, please call in, share your experiences, or ask questions of our guest here. Terry Lovelace, definitely check out Incident at Devil's Den if you haven't read that book. And if you had read Incident at Devil's Den, then you definitely need to get Devil's Den, The Reckoning. Totally blown away by this book, just as much as I was blown away by the first one, Terry. All right, guys, we'll be right back after this short commercial break.
Intercepted transmission of unknown origin.
Transmission? Out here?
SOS.
Human.
Unknown.
Alien. Certificate X. Exclusive engagement at the Odeon Leicester Square. Now.
Any systematized transmission indicating a possible intelligent origin must be investigated. I will hear it.
In space, no one can hear you scream.
If you are interested in discovering the truth about the paranormal and want to hear from leading researchers in the field, join Justin Brown on his 3 weekly shows named My Paranormal Soapbox, Necromancer Live Show, and the Supernatural Symposium, live on Facebook, YouTube, and InterfaceDeath.net.
This is an APAC studio presentation.
Hi, I'm Barry, owner-operator of Barry's Barometer Barn. Lately, I bet you've been lying awake at night asking yourself, how many barometers do I really need? Well, at Barry's Barometer Barn, we think you need more than one. Otherwise, we're gonna go out of business. Remember, at Barry's Barometer Barn, we don't know the meaning of high-pressure sales. Come on, folks, buy another barometer. I'm trying to put my kids through college, I've got a family to support, and a secret mistress who isn't cheap.
Visit Barry's Barometer Barn, 000 Storm Drive. Come on, folks, buy a barometer. I'm Barry's older brother, Larry, and every time one of you people walk past the store without coming in, Barry beats me.
This has been a presentation from Tim Morgan's APAC Studio. For more almost professional amateur comic studio content, visit the APAC YouTube channel. Search APAC 2002. That's APAC 2002 on YouTube.
When Alex Gardner is asleep, he has an extraordinary gift. The government wants it, the scientists want it, but to keep it may cost him his life. It might be better if Alex didn't sleep at all, but he cannot resist entering the dreamscape. Can you? See Dreamscape in the West End and all over London now, Certificate 15. It takes an extraordinary adventurer to enter the dreamscape.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from Talkstream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do Voices from Beyond, the Cold Case Files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
The night is alive. Join us and take a walk on the weird side when you tune in to the Kingdom of Nye, hosted by Heather Wade, the finest in late night talk. Listen live free weeknights starting at 9 p.m. Pacific time at thekingdomofnye.com, talkstreamlive.com, and the Paranormal Radio app. Wanna take a ride?
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Heat 'em up. Do, re, Egon.
Listening to Paranormal Soup, bringing you the weird every Sunday night. Call into the show and join the discussion. The call-in lines are 219-230-4444 or 260-225-9419 or by Skype caller ID Jblandoo or Jblandparanormalsoup. And now to your host, Jason Bland.
Tonight, our guest has been Terry Lovelace. We're talking about his newest book, Devil's Den, The Reckoning. And I hope you're not just turning in now, because you missed a lot, but you can always go back and watch. We have the reruns on YouTube. You can watch that. But I hope you've been here with us the whole time, because this is the most fascinating subject. When it comes to alien abduction, is one of the most credible, experiencers I've ever encountered or talked to is Terry Lovelace. I would love to have Whitley Strieber on and all that, but I read Communion, and it was a great book, but it did not affect me like Instant Devil's Den did. Yeah, and I think Whitley Strieber's amazing, but it did not affect me like Incident at Devil's Den did. I honestly recommend anybody to watch this show. You haven't read it yet, you need to. And then you need to get The Reckoning, Devil's Den, The Reckoning. If you've had any of these experiences you've wondered about, it will open your eyes. I truly admit that. We do have somebody waiting on the phone line, so we got a lot to get to, so let's go ahead and get back to our guest. All right, Terry, we got somebody waiting on the line here, so let's go ahead and get to their phone call. Who do we got on the line?
Hi, Jason, it's me, Azariana.
Hey, Azariana, how you doing?
Good. I wanted to relate a story to Terry.
Yes.
I don't know if I've said this before. I don't know if it's a repeat. But when I was abducted continually from age 5 to about in my 20s. And I don't recall having like an implant in my body. I was given a rock. It looked like a Hershey Kiss type thing. That's the only, or pyramid. And it was this gray color. And I always carried it on me, on my person, from age 5 to my 20s. And whenever I knew they were coming, this would sort of get blue. And you couldn't, I tried to scratch it like with knives or metal objects, and it would never scratch. You wouldn't see a scratch. It would always be that, the same type of color. And and I would always get anxious and nervous because when it did that, when it glowed or gave off a color or what I figured was a color, that I would always get nervous because they're coming back,
Mm-hmm.
and so like I said, I don't remember having an implant, but I do remember having that.
What happened to it?
And well, when I was in my 20s, when I was in my 20s, I got so tired of it because after I had my children, I had 4 hybrid children. And I finally got so tired of it, I just got angry one day and I said, I don't want you in my life anymore. I don't want you anywhere near me. And I put it away somewhere and it disappeared.
Oh, wow.
I can't find it anymore. And since then, over the years, I get that notion that I should find it again because they're going to be coming back and looking for me, and they follow my family also. So it's generational type thing.
It's like they gave you like a communicator or something, like something to connect you to them. Like that's rare. Usually, people don't have any physical evidence like that. It sounds like you did. I want to tell you should find it, but I'm afraid if you do find it, then it's all going to start up for you again.
I think it's amazing that you could
Right.
hold on to something from 5 years old to into your 20s.
You knew
I could never have done that. So that must have had some kind of attachment to you. You had an attachment to it or a joint or something, but you kept that with you from age 5 up until you were in your 20s. That's really, really significant.
Yeah, the most thing that I remember from it, besides what I had said, is that it was never hot. It was always cool to the touch. And especially when it glowed this bluish color from it, it got colder. And I always thought it was strange because, if it's a rock, something like that, gee, maybe it shouldn't be cold, that kind of stuff. It always, I won't say worried me, but I always wondered about it, you know?
Was it metal?
And it wasn't, no, it was, I don't know what it was. It wasn't a metal. It wasn't a hard thing. It wasn't hollow. I can't really describe it, but it wasn't anything that rocks, crystals are made of. It was something totally different.
You said it was like pyramid shape?
It was, yeah. Hershey Kiss or pyramid shape. Yeah.
Were there any marks
Same
on
thing.
marking symbols or designs on it of any kind?
Not that I know of. Of course,
Yeah.
But it could have, when it did glow, but I'm not really sure. I didn't notice that. I noticed more of the feeling of how cool it was, and you couldn't damage it in any way.
You said it would glow, though?
Yeah, it was a gray color normally.
Yeah.
And almost like aluminum color.
Yeah.
Maybe like a dull aluminum color.
Okay.
And like I said, you couldn't destroy it. And the color when they were coming, the gray almost had a bluish kind of. The gray turned to like a bluish.
That is
That
is so interesting. It's like they were trying to give you like, hey, this is our way of telling you we're on our way.
Yeah, and I knew that within like a couple of days they would be there. I could never run from them. I tried to hide when, if I noticed that, but I never could hide. Never, they always found me.
Yeah, but that seems to be the case for everybody.
Yeah.
It's an abductee. There's nowhere you can hide. They'll find you. Well, Zariana, thank you for calling in and sharing.
Yeah. Well, thank you too, and everybody have a good night.
Yeah, and
thank you, Terry.
if that little thing turns up, I better be the first person you call. you better let me know.
I would love to send it away if I find it.
You can send it to me. I'll take it. All right, my wife might not be happy, but I'll take it. All right, have a good night, Zariana.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Oh, yeah, my wife totally, all this freaks her out. The helicopter thing that happened to me after we were on the phone, like, oh, it freaked her out. The last thing she wants to even consider or deal with is alien abduction. Like, it scares the hell out of her. Yeah, she was trying to get the little blood specks out of my shirt. She's like, this is so weird. Like, I don't know what you did, how this happened.
Yeah. I wake up with a spot of blood on my back of my pillow once or twice a year since 77. And, I can never find a trace of blood in my hair when I had hair, or in my ears or mouth or nose or anywhere.
Yeah.
But
usually, like, if you had a bloody nose in the middle of the night, it's going to be on your nose. You're going to see it,
Right. It's and it's right where the back of my head would lay, and it looks just like you took a dropper, eyedropper thing, and put a drop of blood, a foot above, and dropped it on the pillowcase. As a matter of fact, that's an interesting story too.
Yeah, no, I saw Rob had that up, and I'm like, yeah, we got to get to that a little bit.
Yeah. That's really the point of my story is that, my wife is really tired of me ruining pillowcases. So.
Well, my wife wasn't so happy about the shirt. Like, just like, how did, because I didn't have a bloody nose. It just was like that. And that was after that night. I was like, saw the clock, was 3:30, walked to the bathroom, literally in there for a minute, walked back out. And now it's like after 4:30, almost 5. Yeah. Like, what happened? I don't know. It was weird. But this instance here, where we got a photo up for people listening on the radio network of Terry's, what is this, like your Fitbit kind of deal on the iPhone?
Yeah, on the iPhone, that's my health app.
Health app, yeah.
And this is a shot of there are 2 screens. This is, the shot that kind of gives you a capsule version of what happened during your day, number of steps you took, number of stairs you climbed. I did 1,775 steps. I walked 0.74 miles. And then down it says stairs climbed, flights of stairs climbed. And this is always like 0, I mean, unless I go to a
Right.
parking garage or something and have to walk up and down. I live in a Texas ranch. I mean, the only step I have in my house is a 4-inch threshold, at the front door. This shows that at between 5:23, pardon me, between 5:23 and 5:24 a.m. in that 1 minute period, I climbed 6 flights of stairs. And if there's a second screen, I don't know
There's
if you
another
have it
shot.
available.
Yeah, I do. It should be in there, Rob. It should be another. Probably
It's
right
an
next
it's
to
an
it.
XY graph.
Yeah,
That's it.
that's it. It's right there.
Yep. It's an XY graph. The Y graph being the vertical shows height in increments of 10 feet. So what this means is that my phone was 60 feet over my bedroom because I
6
didn't wake
floors.
up until 5:55 a.m. And so I climbed 6 flights of stairs, did it in less than a minute. But what's interesting is because I have heart disease, I got a phone with a special shield on it, makes it safe. I keep it I sleep with a t-shirt with a pocket in it, and I sleep with the earbuds in my phone, earbuds at night.
Because you need the white noise.
Because I need the white noise. Otherwise,
Same
I've
here.
been doing this, man, since Walkman days. I've been putting when I had those foam earphones. Yeah, I mean, I sleep with the light on, and I got to have some kind of noise. And I've been doing this. I listen to meditative apps or binaural beats or HemiSync or that kind of stuff. So the phone was on my body, and I supposedly climbed these 6 flights of stairs at between 5:23 and 5:24 a.m. I woke up at 5:55 a.m. out of breath, and I was just absolutely starved for oxygen. And I thought I was having some kind of cardiac event, but I didn't have any chest pain. And they took me by ambulance to the hospital, and I know the drill: chest X-ray, cardiac enzymes, and an EKG. They did all that. All of it came back negative, and said, we don't know what happened to you. You must have had an errant beat or something, but we think you're fine. And they cut me loose about 3 p.m. And that's when I went home and ate dinner. And then after dinner, I told my wife I'm going to go for my normal half-mile walk, and went out and found that it said I'd climbed 6 flights of stairs. So I had Apple check out the phone. There's nothing wrong with the phone, nothing wrong with the app. And I said, how is this calculated? Is this like GPS or something? She's like, no. Height is determined by, believe it or not, barometric pressure.
Yep.
I found that kind of weird, and she said it's very accurate. And in this 1 minute period, your phone at least was 60 feet above your home, or above wherever you were.
See, the question this dictates to me, though. So I believe you. I believe you were taken. I believe this documents this. But it was only for a few minutes.
That was just the trip up. It doesn't show the trip down.
Right. But that means time control.
Yes, I think so.
Why
too.
would they only take you for a minute and then put you back?
Doesn't make
No,
sense.
they can take all the time they want and put you right back.
Yes.
Could have been a minute our time, but
Right.
6 hours their time.
Well, how many times people, abductees, they say their spouses never noticed they were missing. I mean, if they can do this, then yeah, nobody's going to notice.
But it just took a minute for it to go up. But how long was he actually up there before he came back down?
Yeah. Well, like I say, I woke up at 5:55 because I remember that triple digit thing always freaks me out.
Yeah.
So much so that after this, I ended up taking the digital clock out of the bedroom, and because it freaked my wife out so bad.
So one of the things that makes me think of, I told you, you woke in my memories from my camping trip that I had.
Yes.
But before that, it happens after the camping trip, was my shadow person experience I've talked about on the show. It's been in Mike Ricksecker's book. That all ended with me being levitated 3 times up off my bed. Third time was when I was like, God help me, and I dropped down and bounced off my bed, and this thing was zapped away. But maybe thinking about like some of your other stories, other people that emailed you, I know there's one in particular talking about flying and
Through
then
the roof.
bouncing on their bed, through the roof. Makes me wonder what was happening to me there.
Yeah.
Like it was trying to take me up, like physically up, Like I had all these experiences with that shadow person where it would rip me out of my body, and I literally go on a flying trip and it'd show me things in real time happening. But this was like, this time I'm taking you physically up. Like I felt my nose hit the ceiling, and it makes me, I still think, because the person I experienced a shadow person with was the same person I was on that camping trip with.
Yeah.
Like, is there a connection? I don't know. That's the deep question I have now about my shadow person experience.
Well, maybe I got Betty, you got a shadow person. Maybe we each
Well,
get
that is monitoring us. Like it was monitoring us or something after the camping trip.
Yeah, I had this one lady write to me and said, "Yeah, I just consider." She had a man. She said, "I just consider him to be my handler." And I thought that was a
good way to put it.
Yeah, good choice of words, because that's what it feels like.
That's what like Betty is. You know what I always think. You describe Betty. That there was other children when you were a kid that were there. When you'd be on the ship learning, you go into this in the reckoning. Like what you guys would learn telepathically how to communicate with each other. There's other children that saw Betty. What's the chances of one of them seeing this and go, I know who you're talking about. I remember her.
I've wondered that all my life. If I could ever run into one of these kids, because it was always the same group of kids, would we know one another? I kind of think we would.
Did you ever see People of Earth?
People of Earth?
Yeah, it was a TV show out like a year or two ago.
I didn't. I haven't had cable in 15 years. So
yeah, I don't have cable anymore either. But People of Earth actually had like a good fan base, like a cult fan base, and it's about abductees. It's a comedy about abductees.
Oh, I heard about this. I heard it was a great show.
They did, and they canceled it. And I always wondered, like, yeah, I felt like there's some nefarious purpose to canceling this show because they touched upon things, Terry.
Probably.
Like, the abductees were all together as children. And these aliens that they don't even realize how they're connected. I think they touched upon things on that show that was probably too close to home. It got canceled because they had people watching it. It was hilarious. I loved it. Wow. And then they canceled it. Like every show I love, they cancel.
Yeah. What if it's on Netflix?
Or Hulu, I think.
Hulu?
If I remember right. Maybe Hulu. Definitely should watch it. And you still got to watch Steven Spielberg's Taken, the miniseries.
Yeah, I should do that.
If you ever come to Michigan City, Indiana, we're going to sit down and just watch the whole thing together. Because my wife bought that for me on box set. Because you know what? You can't find it anywhere. You have to like go search for the box set on Amazon, and it's not cheap. Or at least it wasn't cheap for a long time. She finally found a good deal on it. But like they only played it once. It was a miniseries in 2000, I think. Dakota Fanning was like a little girl in it,
Did that begin with a guy on a motorcycle?
You've asked me that before. If it began with a guy on a motorcycle, I don't think so. No, it begins with Roswell.
Okay.
It begins with Roswell.
I remember our conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. But you might have caught an episode later. There's one of the characters does have a motorcycle. I bet you watched an episode later, like you caught part of that miniseries because you always ask.
Someone told me I should watch that, and I watched this bit about the motorcycle, and I thought, ooh, that because that reminded me of those 2 hours of missing time, and.
Well, there's a lot of that, but there's a screen memories in that, Terry. Every time we talk about, even more in this book, the screen memories, like the carousel, the clowns that Gerald saw, in that, like Steven Spielberg really, in the circus, the whole circus scene is a big thing, a part of the screen memories, but between these two different families that are being abducted. It's this circus carny, pulls up in a truck, has a big circus thing on it.
Wow.
Yeah. So, made me think of that. The screen memory thing is really, like, Steven Spielberg, I swear, knows something.
Oh, I think so, too. Yeah. Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I had my experience in June of 1977, and Close Encounters was released in November.
And you saw something similar to what they see at the end of that movie, in a sense. When you said you saw, like, the small children walk around and the description you give, and,
that
reminds me of what you see at the end of, when they take up Richard Dreyfuss. Sorry, spoiler alert, but I mean, it's an old movie. Come on, people.
Yeah, that's right.
But the way that Steven Spielberg shot that with them, the silhouette, makes you wonder if he's seen real footage, and redid it. Like they say, there's always a conspiracy theory, like that whole mountain scene where they communicate with aliens is something he based off that really happened. We really did try to, like, meet the aliens or communicate,
You ever seen there's a YouTube video about Skinny Bob, it's called.
Yeah, you see, I play Skinny
And
Bob
I was
in
going
my
to say,
before
Skinny
show
Bob,
thing.
yeah, Skinny's on your intro. That's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
you felt that's real.
I
looks
did.
like what you experience, and it
That
gives
looks like
every time I've seen first time I ever saw Skinny Bob footage, it gave me like my hair on my arms was raised. First time I ever saw it.
That looked like what I saw. I mean,
I still have my suspect doubts that it could be CG. You know, it could be. You know, I'm just that way because there's a will, there's a way, and especially in movie magic, you can do it.
Yeah, skepticism is good.
But something about that footage gave me the creeps the first time I saw it. It still does. I'm
Well,
fascinated.
the provenance of it is kind of sketchy too. I mean, it
Yeah.
came from an Eastern European country, from a guy that posted something once and only once,
Yeah.
and that's what they posted. And I guess it's a lot harder to CGI, magnetic tape than it is digital products. So, anything could be hoaxed.
I know. The thing is, if the governments have had them and they filmed them, something's got to eventually get out. And you wonder if Skinny Bob is that something that got out. It seems so real, but it's hard to say. But it gave me the creeps the first time I saw it.
Yeah. Boy,
and
me
I've
too.
seen a lot of other fake footage of aliens. Seen a lot, that's been proven to be fake.
Yeah.
Years later. But that one in particular hasn't been disproven, and it still gives me the creeps.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
And well, as somebody who's seen them, to me, you've seen that entity. Does it look like what you remember?
It looks like what I remember, and its movements, its mannerisms, it looks like a living thing. It looks like what I saw.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've seen, you watch movies and you watch CGI and you can tell, like there's a feeling, and I don't know, I can't tell with that.
Yeah.
It seems real, we're getting towards the end of the show, and we've talked a little bit about, the disclosure movement. I keep saying, I think I said this on your podcast, that, people, if there really is a disclosure, like really something that really blows people's minds, because it seems like I thought people's minds would be blown by some of the stuff that's already been released, but not. But if something really happens that blows people's minds, changes the perspective of most people in the world on the topic of aliens, I think more people would come to us. Like we've been talking about this for a long time.
Yeah.
Why aren't more people interested now, even with the disclosure that we've had?
Yeah.
I've seen piqued interest in people that I thought would never. I've seen it start to make a little bit of more awareness in the general public, but it's not there yet.
It's not there yet. And then there's the Dunning-Kruger effect to deal with. I don't know if you're familiar with that or not. I bet you.
Sounds familiar.
Dunning-Kruger is, if someone is convinced that they're right, nothing will change their mind.
Well, okay.
That's people that fall under the Dunning-Kruger umbrella of. These two psychologists came up with this. It's an interesting video on YouTube if you want to watch it or read about it.
Yeah, I've heard of it now. I think about it. Yeah. But you think, if aliens land on the White House lawn, that's it. I'm saying, like, there could be a defining moment in all this.
I'm trying to think what would be the defining moment. What could possibly be? I mean, people would say, "Oh, it's a false flag. It's this. It's that."
Yeah, I mean, would it be the government totally coming out and say, yes, we know aliens are real. There was a Roswell crash. We have bodies. We have ships. Would that be it? Or would people like, I don't trust you. It's a ploy. It's Project Bluebeam.
Yeah.
Even though the conspiracy theorists would be the first ones to go, no.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think
land of illusion.
I think what would do it is this: if they brought back all the people that David Paulides documented that they disappeared without a trace. Bring back every single one of them.
Like Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yep, and put them in Central Park and let them talk about where they've been and what they saw.
I don't think those people are coming back.
I don't think so either.
They might be food.
Yeah.
I don't know. They eat us. I don't know. There's a lot of different species, maybe. I don't know. That's the thing. The whole story is probably too confusing to be disclosed. It's too complex and too many layers for them to disclose it. It's not one simple, yes, there's aliens. Oh, there's 72, and there's interdimensional, and there's time travelers, and there's, some are abducting, some are good, some are here, Galactic Federation. Maybe it's too complex.
the Pentagon says, "Hey, the video is real. We don't know what it is," and people are like, "Hey, you see? Yeah, they said it was real." And what's next? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, disclosure. There was disclosure right there, and nobody gives a crap.
Nobody. That's exactly right. Well, yeah, December 17, 2017, with the Tic Tac story in the New York Times. Who cares? Nobody cared.
They got these things going flying in and out of the water. Like, that is not man-made technology in any such way.
Yeah.
That should be it right there. Boom.
But, people are convinced this stuff isn't real, and take an awful lot
That's
to
what I'm
change
saying.
their
Is there ever, only way we'll get the true disclosure is these things land like in the middle of Times Square or something, like right on live camera for everybody.
Full on Independence Day.
Or V or something, they come out and eat gerbils. I don't know. But
Set up an embassy, yeah.
It might not be good. I don't know. Yeah. If we're ever going to see that, or it's going to be 20 years from now, we're still going, oh, they're disclosing something new, but it's really nothing because it's the same old crap. It's another video footage and we don't know what that is. I don't know. It's like, are we ever going to see behind the curtain?
Boy, I don't know.
Yeah, see?
I
don't know either. I couldn't tell you. I feel like we've moved way farther ahead than we've ever been on this subject.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like we're this close.
That's what it is, like this close. But we're always is it gonna be like, you want this dollar? You want this dollar? You want this dollar? You're gonna keep pulling it back? I don't know.
Always gonna dangle that carrot.
Yeah. That's or are we being set up for something too? That's true. I mean, a fake alien invasion, but there really are aliens, but they're gonna fake it for their own nefarious reasons. I don't know. No one, trust no one, as X-Files taught us. Yeah. But that's the thing. I think the true, I guess I'll end it on this note and I'll let you, give out any more information you want to get. But I think the true disclosure isn't going to ever come from the government. It comes from you with your book and everybody else's experiences, like what they emailed you. It comes from a movement of people saying, I've had this experience. It was real. I know it was real. And screw you if you don't believe me.
Yeah,
and more people coming out. Yeah.
It's
we're
grassroots.
The disclosure movement.
We're disclosure. The four of us, we're disclosure. Yeah, we're doing what we're supposed to be doing.
So as in a TV show, copyright Jason Bland, we're disclosure.
Yeah.
Pick it up, Sci-Fi Channel, TBS. I don't know. All right, anyway.
Netflix.
TBS is one of canceled People of the Earth, if I remember right. But
yes.
Well, thank you so much, Terry. Any last information you want to get out to the audience?
My books are on Amazon. Check them out. They have good reviews. It's Incident at Devil's Den and Devil's Den, The Reckoning. And the audiobook is for Incident at Devil's Den is good if you like audiobooks. I'm told it's a good listen.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard many people say it was really good as an audiobook. Are you going to do the same for Devil's Den, The Reckoning?
I am. I'm working on it. It was
awesome.
The studio was closed because of COVID, so it's just now reopened. So I'm about 8 hours into it. I'm about halfway done.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Terry, so much for being on. It was, like I said, it goes by so damn fast. But I counted on the days of this, and now the show's over. I can't believe it already. But we'll have to do this again. And like I said, I'd like to have you and Aaron on my show together. It was fun being on Devil's Den podcast. I'd love to have you both on together, talk about your experiences together.
Yeah, that'd be fun because Aaron's got some cool stuff. Well, she's been on your show.
We had her as a guest. Oh, yeah, Erin Montgomery. Definitely check it out. All right, thanks, guys. That's it for the show. See you next Sunday. Same bad time, same bad channel. Next week's guest is Mary Medeiros, if I say that right, about Akashic Records. She's also an Emmy Award-winning director. But she's able to peer into the Akashic Records. So not going to do readings, but she's going to talk about what the Akashic Records are and what she understands about them. When we come next Sunday, 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. Central, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. Pacific Time. Thank you to everybody who shares out the show. It is a big help. Let your friends know about a show where you can come, discuss your paranormal experiences with no judgment. Call in the show and join the conversation. This is where the weird happens live. The paranormal happens live, right on this show, every Sunday night. Thank you to the patrons. $2 a month. You can check us out on Patreon. Help pays the bills. All right, guys, have a great night. See you next Sunday.